Warrior Lore. Chapter 3307. Xiao Hua was flabbergasted, but he didn't show it on his face. He just watched quietly. But at this moment, Xiao Hua and the others' eyes were different. After the gray light flashed, there was actually a huge space. There was still a river in this space, but the river was already dozens of zhang long. The pleasure boat seemed small in this river, and the water in the river was also turbulent, causing the pleasure boat to be a little bumpy. Xiao Hua turned his head to take a look. Behind the pleasure boat, there was also a huge cave entrance. The mountain was rugged, and there was a huge stalactite hanging there, blocking the entrance of the cave. The river water flowed under the stalactite, and it seemed that they could only enter this cave through the teleportation array, and the boats that came in from outside the cave would be blocked by the stalactite. Where is this? Xiao Hua glanced at it and naturally released his divine sense. However, when his divine sense swept through the cave, Xiao Hua was shocked to discover that this cave was actually able to isolate his divine sense. Moreover, when his divine sense landed on the walls of the cave, there were signs of corrosion. Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and thought to himself, interesting. I wonder if I'll have to use this transmission array when I leave. Withdrawing his divine sense, Xiao Hua looked at the other side of the cave. The entire cave was like the belly of a huge fish. Above Xiao Hua and the others, there were rows of protruding rocks at the top of the cave. A grayish-white mountain ridge about 1 zhang long passed through the middle of these rocks and disappeared at the end of the pleasure boat along the river. And at the end of the river, there was a cave that was dozens of zhang long. It was pitch black inside, and there wasn't any light. Only the faint sound of water falling into the river could be heard. Hearing the sound of water falling into the river, Xiao Hua understood that when the river reached the cave, it would definitely turn into a waterfall. If there was no accident, there should be a huge abyss inside the cave. However, Xiao Hua's gaze fell on old monster Ji Feng's face. This rat spirit appeared to be very calm. When he saw Xiao Hua looking at him, he actually grinned. Kiki, since he wasn't even afraid of a rat spirit that was at the 4th level of elemental energy, Xiao Hua naturally wouldn't care about the abyss. He didn't believe that the pleasure boat beneath him was just a pleasure boat. On the contrary, Princess Baihua Xine, who had just joined forces with Xiao Hua against a common enemy, poured Xiao Hua a cup of Cha New Kingdom's new tea. Her pair of eyes very curiously looked at this very strange cave. Her gaze moved from here to there. After looking once, she actually stood up from her chair and walked to Xiao Hua's side. She whispered, "Brother Xiao, this place has a hint of gloom. It's better for this servant to walk together with Brother Xiao." Xiao Hua held the petal-like teacup in his hand. The dark green tea in the teacup exuded a faint fragrance. He placed the teacup in his mouth and took a sip. A pure world spirit chi penetrated into his internal organs from the tea, giving him a very comfortable feeling. Hearing Princess Baihua's whisper, he couldn't help but smile. "Fellow immortal Xian, why did you come to this auction? Who invited you here? Who are you supposed to be with?" AI, this servant only wanted to see the excitement. Who knew that the auction would be like this? Princess Baihua spoke halfway and stole a glance at Ao Shuai, who was talking to old monster Jifeng. She stopped and said faintly, "Fellow immortal, I don't know if you've seen the heirs of the Copper Pillar country's royal family. If fellow immortal knows them, then you must know how lonely we are. Although this servant is above tens of thousands of people in the Cha New Kingdom, but this servant's body has countless shackles. These shackles seem invisible, but they're always present in every corner. Not to mention the various rules and regulations in the royal palace, just the scheming between people makes this servant sick to death." This time, this servant came to the Copper Pillar country to discuss cooperation with the Copper Pillar country's crown prince. But this servant didn't expect to encounter Zhai Xing Lu's auction. What's more, this servant also obtained the Scarlet Flame War Chariot from that auction. Previously, this servant clearly stated that the value of this Scarlet Flame War Chariot to this servant is far greater than the amount of elemental stones this servant paid. This Scarlet Flame War Chariot is this servant's opportunity to control the Cha New Kingdom. Hee, Brother Xiao, don't forget, this servant still owes you a favor. My Cha New Kingdom has many lost cultivation methods and secret techniques from the Taoist sections. I'm afraid this will be extremely useful to you. You must protect this servant well, otherwise, this servant's favor will fly away. As if afraid that Xiao Hua would dare to let her go, Princess Bai Hua hurriedly mentions what she said at the auction. Then she continues, this servant is very happy to have obtained the war chariot. During the day, the discussion with the Copper Pillar country's crown prince was also very harmonious. According to the plan, tomorrow, it should be early this morning, this servant will bring the war chariot back to the Chanu kingdom. Thinking about the birdcage-like royal palace in the kingdom, this servant's heart is tangled. I really don't want to go back so early. Just now at the auction, didn't Senior Zhifeng say something to the Eastern Sea Patrol? Thus, this servant took advantage of the time when you guys were bidding for the heavenly horse to sneak into Senior Ao Shuai's room to inquire. After this servant offered more than 10 jars of my Chanu kingdom's new wine, Senior Ao Shuai finally relented and agreed to bring this servant to watch the fun. AI, since it was Ao Shuai who brought you here, you should be with him. Xiao Hua sighs and touches his nose. He bitterly smiles and says, this Zhao's cultivation is shallow. When I come here, I can't even take care of myself. How can I protect you? You are the future ruler of the Chanu kingdom. If something happens to you, this Xiao can't afford to take responsibility. Brother Xiao. Princess Bai Hua pouts her small mouth, showing that delicate and pitiful appearance. Just now, we fought together with Senior Ao. You see, don't forget that we are all humans. He and Senior Zhifeng are both demons. If this servant doesn't follow you, who else can I follow? But it doesn't matter, Brother Xiao, you can rest assured. With this servant here, I will definitely protect you, and won't let you lose a single hair. Who told us to be humans? Don't you think so? This, looking at Princess Bai Hua's somewhat sly eyes, Xiao Hua is speechless. Just now, he said that he couldn't protect her, but she actually turned around to protect him. What can Xiao Hua say? Brother Xiao. Princess Bai Hua drags her voice again. It's just an auction. What danger can there be? This servant only feels that this place is gloomy. Moreover, when we were about to board the pleasure boat, Senior Ao of the demon race already said that he was also invited here. He doesn't know the depth of this auction, so he can't guarantee this servant's safety. This servant is relying on you. Being unreasonably entangled by Princess Bai Hua like this, Xiao Hua is also helpless. Regardless of whether this auction is dangerous or not, what Princess Bai Hua said is right. He and Princess Bai Hua are both humans. In this place, they can only support each other and have no other choice. AI, the eyes of others blind, the mouth of others is soft. Xiao Hua sighs helplessly. Just now, the distance between this Xiao and you was too close. Now, this Xiao wants to taste your new tea. How can this Xiao dare not agree? Hee. Princess Bai Hua is not surprised that Xiao Hua will agree. She says with a smile, this servant knows that Brother Zhao's mouth is hard and his heart is soft. At this point, Princess Bai Hua's eyes turn and says, it seems that Brother Zhao's mouth is even softer than his heart, right? Xiao Hua's face instantly becomes a bit hot. He knows that Princess Bai Hua is alluding to the words he said before boarding the pleasure boat. However, before Xiao Hua can think of a way to answer, the entire pleasure boat makes a strange sound like a horse stepping on a bluestone. Xiao Hua hurriedly looks up. In this short period of time, the pleasure boat has already arrived in front of another cave. From the cave, a sound similar to that of a cow mooing can be heard. It seems that there is another world inside. At this time, under the pleasure boat, the water seems to be boiling and bubbles appear. These bubbles rush up to the pleasure boat and cause it to shake. Xiao Hua's heart is moved, and he looks at old monster Zhifeng. Contrary to Xiao Hua's expectations, old monster Zhifeng's rat eyes also flash with a trace of doubt. It seems that he is also astonished. Old monster Zhifeng, Xiao Hua hurriedly calls out, when can we reach the auction? Is it inside this cave? Old monster Zhifeng bitterly smiles and waves his hand. Don't ask this old man. This old man only knows that after sitting on this dragon boat and passing through the arch bridge, we can reach the auction. And this dragon boat can at most seat 4 people. This old man does not know anything else. Just as he is speaking, An enormous suction force suddenly appears in front of the pleasure boat. Everyone's body slightly leans back, and the entire pleasure boat rushes into the cave faster than flying swords. Boom! Inside the dragon's head in front of the pleasure boat, a completely different fluctuation appeared. This fluctuation overflowed into the cave, emitting a violent rumbling sound. As this rumbling sound rang out, Xiaohua felt his eyes widen slightly. Soon after, a sound even louder than this rumbling sound rushed into his ears, as if 10,000 drums were beating at the same time. Deafening sounds are exactly what Xiaohua was thinking. Hiss! Amidst the countless rumbling sounds, Xiaohua releases his divine sense. After seeing it clearly, he gasps. The pleasure boat rushed into a huge abyss. Behind the pleasure boat, the river that was dozens of feet long rushed out of the cave like a snow-white dragon. It roared as it rushed towards the bottom of the abyss. When the water hit the rock walls, it made a loud noise. There are probably dozens of snow dragons like this in the abyss. These waterfalls all make the same loud noise. In the abyss, aside from this sound, there is only floating water. The pleasure boat rushes into the abyss and only pauses for a moment before falling into the abyss again. Xiaohua is shocked, but Princess Bai Hua's scream has already sounded. Unfortunately, Princess Bai Hua's scream is like an ant's in the abyss. Even Xiaohua, who is close by, can't hear it clearly. Not good. Xiaohua is shocked. He immediately activates the little bit of magic power in his body. Before he can use the flying talisman, the veils around the pleasure boat suddenly rise like wings. Waves of graceful music actually comes from these veils. -11. Chapter 3308. Roar, roar. With two clear roars, the two dragon figures in front of the pleasure boat rushed out along with the music. After winding in the air for a moment, they immediately pulled the pleasure boat, and the pleasure boat abruptly stopped in midair. Then, the two dragon figures flashed with a green brilliance. As the brilliance became more and more intense, the dragon figures roared again and rushed toward the stone wall. Woo-woo! With two collision sounds, the dragon figures rushed into the stone wall, and immediately, thousands of light shadows sprayed out from the stone wall. As soon as the light shadows fell on the dragon figures immediately turned into green stalks like a horned dragon. Moreover, these light shadows followed the green stalks to cover the pleasure boat, and in a moment, the entire pleasure boat was wrapped up. The moment the light shadows were sealed, the thunderous sounds in the entire abyss immediately disappeared. Moreover, through the light shadows, the entire abyss also changed. At this time, the pleasure boat of Xiaohua and the others had already transformed into a small pavilion. On the pavilion, the number 9 flashed with a faint brilliance. The pavilion was surrounded by vines, and the mist that filled the sky was like a hand, brushing these slender vines. In the entire abyss, in addition to Xiaohua's pavilion, there were 8 other pavilions of different styles. These pavilions emitted different brilliances, and Xiaohua and the others couldn't see the situation inside clearly. However, outside the pavilions, the numbers 1, 2 were indeed very clear. Looking at the center of the 9 pavilions, which was the center of the abyss, there was a hill-like drum. On this drum, 2 old men were casually sitting. One of them was holding a fist-sized wine jug, and between the two of them was a floating chessboard. The two of them were drinking wine while playing chess, as if they didn't see the surrounding pavilions. Just as Xiaohua and the others' pavilions appeared, 9 different brilliances of different colors flew out from the 2 old men's bodies, respectively landing on the 9 pavilions. Then, these 9 brilliances slowly expanded until they covered the entire abyss. This brilliance just happened to be like the ground, isolating the entire space from the abyss. Pa! With a crisp sound, a white chess piece that was as translucent as jade landed on the chessboard. The old man who was holding the white chess piece stood up and laughed heartily. Old Ghost Qingyu, you've lost this game. If you want to make a comeback, you'll have to wait until next time. At this moment, Xiaohua suddenly discovered that he could see the chessboard very clearly, as well as the black and white flags on the chessboard. Motherfucker, is there a mistake? Since when did you have chess pieces here? Why didn't I see him just now? Before the white-haired old man could completely stand up, the old man holding the black piece shouted angrily. His finger was pointing at a white piece on the chessboard. Haha, if you lose, then you lose. You even learned how to renege. Your chess style is becoming more and more like your character. The white-haired old man waved his hand, and the chessboard turned into fragments and disappeared. I don't have any moral character to begin with. The old man named Qing Yu muttered a few words, raised his eyes to look around, and then somewhat unhappily called out, Old Devil Qin, why did only 9 families come this time? Your auction is getting more and more desolate. Hee hee. The old man with the surname Qin rubbed his hands in embarrassment. Today is the Hungry Ghost Festival. Many cultivators don't have time to spare. Moreover, there's an auction at Star Plucking Tower today. That's why there aren't many people here. Forget it. There's not much time left. Let's hurry up and get started. I'm waiting to go back. The old man named Qing Yu waved his hand and urged. All right, I'll call the boy over right now. The old man with the surname Qin extended his hand and took out a copper bell the size of a fist from his wide sleeve. As it shook slightly, a handsome young man walked out from the stone wall and bowed in front of the old man. This humble one is Yin Sheng. Greetings, esteemed master. The old man with the surname Qin put the copper bell into his sleeve and raised his head. His slightly blurry eyes swept across the 9 pavilions. Xiaohua naturally saw the old man's gaze as well. Although they were separated by a great distance, Xiaohua felt that the old man's gaze could penetrate his body and see through him. As for Xiaohua himself, although he released his divine sense, he could only vaguely sense the old man's restrained aura. He couldn't truly grasp the old man's strength. Good heavens, I've finally met an expert. Xiaohua was somewhat speechless. He knew that this old man was at least at the late nascent soul stage, and was definitely not someone he could deal with. After the old man with the surname Qin finished looking through the 9 pavilions, he leisurely said, This old man's surname is Qin and my title is Master 9 Firmaments. I've invited all of you here today because I have a few items to bid on. Of course, some of you already know what these items are, so I don't want to say too much. Everyone will see in a moment. As for the rules of the auction, I won't say too much either. In a moment, the boy under me will explain in detail. In short, I thank all of you for coming tonight. All of you who are able to participate in tonight's auction will receive a token from this old man after the auction is over. If any of you have any problems in the future, you can use the token and the contact information in the token to contact this old man. This old man will do his best to help you. With that, Master 9 Firmaments waved his sleeve, and a few wisps of mist rushed out from the bulging area. When the mist dissipated, the old man named Qing Yu also disappeared. The youth named Yin Sheng hastily bowed and saluted, respectfully sending off Master. Once the old man disappeared, he stood up and saluted the crowd again. Seniors, this junior is called Yin Sheng. Today, I have been appointed by Master to serve seniors. Now, Junior will first explain the rules of the auction to seniors. The rules of this auction are slightly different from those of the Copper Pillar State's Star Plucking Pavilion. Aside from the 3 precious items that Master has already informed us of, if there are any other items that seniors wish to bid on, you can name them. If Master has them, he will definitely bid on them. Furthermore, if Master doesn't have them, other seniors can also take them out to bid. However, Junior can also bid on the items that seniors have taken out. Of course, if seniors have items that others won't bid on, you can take them out. Junior will definitely give seniors a satisfactory price. It was unknown whether it was because everyone was reserved, or because they were afraid of Master 9 Firmaments, but no one spoke from the 9 pavilions. Xiaohua listened to these rules thoughtfully and narrowed his eyes as he looked at old monster Jifeng. Ever since he entered this space, he had been communicating with Ao Shui. It was unknown what they were discussing. However, seeing that the two were somewhat absent-minded and looking outside the pavilion, Xiaohua didn't feel that they were scheming against him. Brother Xiao, have you heard of this Master 9 Firmaments? Princess Baihua was currently sitting on a stone bench next to Xiaohua. She propped her arm on the stone table and propped up her cheek. She curiously looked at the 2 old men who had disappeared and whispered. Their cultivation seemed to be very powerful. Fellow Taoist Xian, Xiao Hua said unhappily, you are the princess of a country. If even you don't know about it, how could this Xiao know? Princess Bai Hua stuck out her tongue and said mischievously, this servant only concentrates on cultivation. These things are usually reported by the servants. Hee hee. Let's hear what the three treasures Master Nine Firmaments prepared. Xiao Hua nodded. If they are suitable, you can also bid for some. Don't. Princess Bai Hua hurriedly waved her hand. This servant has already spent all my primeval stones when bidding for the Scarlet Flame War Chariot. Coming to this auction is really to broaden my horizons. Hee hee. Xiao Hua didn't believe that a princess of a country didn't have any primeval stones. He only smiled and didn't say anything else. Yin Shang stood in the center of the 9 pavilions and waved his hand. The stone wall he came from flashed with a green light and a stone table flew out. At this time, a tray was placed on top of the table. On the tray were several jade eyes. Seniors, these are jade eyes. Although Yin Shang was very calm, his words still revealed a trace of awkwardness. Fortunately, this auction was different from the auction at Star Plucking Tower. No one mocked him and no one disturbed him, allowing him to continue speaking. What is recorded inside is the method to make the Thunderbolt battleship, and, unfortunately, although everyone tried their best to maintain their calm, Yin Shang's words were too shocking. Some people who didn't hear the information cried out, including Princess Bai Hua. What? What? These jade eyes contain the method to make the Thunderbolt battleship? Princess Bai Hua almost jumped up from the stone stool. Her previous reserved demeanor was nowhere to be seen. Along with Princess Bai Hua, the other cultivators in the pavilions were also surprised. They all began to ask Yin Sheng at once. At this time, old monster Ji Feng's rat eyes revealed a trace of pride. He smiled and said, little girl, this old man was right? You asked Inspector Ao to bring you here. You are really lucky. I just don't know if you have enough primeval stones in your Qinkuan bag. Princess Bai Hua didn't seem to hear old monster Ji Feng's voice. She only looked at the jade eyes on the tray in the distance. Her eyes were filled with eagerness. The 2 hands she spoke of had already reached out and snatched the jade eyes. Moreover, she was still muttering this. How is this possible? The Thunderbolt battleship is the national weapon of the previous Dechang Kingdom. Ever since the Dechang Kingdom was destroyed, the Thunderbolt battleship became extinct. It can't be found in the entire hidden immortal continent. How could it appear here? Thunderbolt battleship? Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows. Although he had never heard of the Thunderbolt battleship before, it seemed to be somewhat similar to his Thunder battleship. Thinking for a moment, Xiao Hua smiled and said, Immortal friend Xian, is this Thunderbolt battleship so famous? Brother Xiao, you don't know. Princess Bai Hua reluctantly withdrew her gaze from the jade eyes and sat down. She smiled and said, this Thunderbolt battleship is more than just famous. It is extremely famous. It is the greatest weapon in the hidden immortal continent. Every country wants to have it. -11. Chapter 3309. When Xiao Hua heard this, he laughed. Sounds really powerful. It's beyond my expectations. Princess Bai Hua sighed and explained, this Thunderbolt battleship is the Jin Province Deshang Kingdom's siege weapon. Thousands of years ago, the Deshang Kingdom used this to conquer countless small countries. If not for the sudden death of the Deshang Kingdom's king, they would have conquered the entire Jin Province. Unfortunately, after the sudden death of the Deshang Kingdom's king, the entire kingdom was like a group of dragons without a leader. As the saying goes, when the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. In one night, the kingdom actually split into more than 10 countries. However, none of the kings of these countries actually knew how to make the Thunderbolt battleship. When all of their Thunderbolt battleships were used up, the hidden immortal continent never saw another Thunderbolt battleship again. Oh, Xiao Hua nodded slightly and asked again, between the Thunderbolt battleship and the Scarlet Flame War Chariot, which one is stronger? Princess Bai Hua smiled bitterly. This? I'm afraid there's nothing to compare them. They have different uses. The Scarlet Flame War Chariot is an imitation of the Scarlet Emperor War Chariot. The Scarlet Emperor War Chariot is suitable for a commander. It's not suitable for group attacks. If ordinary soldiers could also stand on the war chariot, how could it be called the Scarlet Emperor War Chariot? The Thunderbolt battleship is used by ordinary soldiers. It can carry thousands of people. It's said that a Thunderbolt battleship can be hundreds or even thousands of feet long. On the battlefield, a Thunderbolt battleship can destroy a country's capital. What's more, this Thunderbolt battleship also has a battle formation. 3 in a group, 9 in a group. When they form a battle formation, they're practically invincible. At this point, Princess Baihua narrowed her eyes and stared at Xiao Hua as if she was thinking of something. However, when her gaze met Xiao Hua's puzzled gaze, she immediately looked away and a trace of shyness appeared on her face. When Princess Baihua was explaining to Xiao Hua, Yin Sheng's face was also red. He stuttered as he answered the questions of the people around him. This is something Master obtained from outside. This one can naturally guarantee that the Jedi records are complete. Not only does it have the method to make the Thunderbolt battleship, it also has the battle formation diagrams of these Thunderbolt battleships. If any senior wants to bid, you can pay the primeval stones first, then look at it yourself. If you feel that there's a mistake, you can refund it. Yin Sheng, what's the starting bid? Once they heard that there was a battle formation inside the Jedi's, some people couldn't help but shout out. Yin Sheng bit his lips lightly and said loudly, "The esteemed lord has already instructed that the 3 treasures we're offering won't be auctioned publicly. If any senior is interested in bidding, you can send a voice transmission to me. I'll sell the treasures to the senior who offers the highest price." How can that be? Who knows if you offered the highest price? What if no one bids? The voice almost blurted out. Unfortunately, after this voice, no one spoke in agreement. Even Yin Sheng's face turned slightly red, and he did not reply. Xiao Hua watched from afar. Although he couldn't see clearly who was talking in the pavilion, Xiao Hua still felt like he was looking at a fool. Since Master 9 Firmaments had sent a young man with a low cultivation base to act as a judge, he naturally wanted to make the people participating in the auction feel at ease. Besides, why would Master 9 Firmaments need to do such a thing? Especially since he didn't need to open his mouth to bid. If he had any tricks up his sleeve, he wouldn't even need to bring the treasures to the auction. As for why no one would bid, Xiao Hua only needed to think for a moment to understand. Just like how old Monster Zhifeng knew that there was something he needed at the auction, the other people at the auction must also know that the Thunderbolt battleship would appear. Moreover, they must have made preparations to bid for it. There was more than one such person. Only people like Xiao Hua and Princess Baihua, who had been invited at the last minute, would be so surprised. As expected, although this person's temperament was a bit impatient, he definitely wasn't a fool. After blurting out those words, he didn't say anything else. He clearly understood the reason. Seniors, if you've finished your discussion, you can send a voice transmission to me, Yin Sheng very respectfully said to Xiao Hua's pavilion. He didn't turn to Xiao Hua. Seeing this, Xiao Hua knew that his previous guess was correct. This Yin Sheng knew that no one would bid for it. Brother Xiao. Princess Baihua suddenly opened her mouth, a trace of excitement on her face. Her already perky chest heaved slightly. You? How many more primeval stones do you have in your Chinkuan pouch? Can you lend me a hand? Xiao Hua was a bit hesitant. He looked at Princess Baihua's eyes and didn't know how to answer. Princess Baihua hurriedly said, "Just now, I've already explained the use of this Thunderbolt battleship to Brother Xiao. This thing has no meaning to ordinary cultivators, but to a country. It's definitely a sharp weapon for its rise. Since I was able to come here, it's my opportunity. It's also my Cha new country's opportunity. I don't want to let it go. I'm willing to use the power of my country to bid for it." Fellow immortal Exion, Xiao Hua rubbed his nose and bitterly smiled. "Do you think the primeval stones in my pouch can compare to the power of your Cha new country?" Sigh. This sentence poked at Princess Baihua's worries. She immediately became dispirited and sat down weakly on the stone bench. "I'm a bit regretful. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have bid for the Scarlet Flame War Chariot." "Why don't you?" Xiao Hua originally wanted to remind Princess Baihua that she could ask Old Monster Zhifeng or Ao Shui for help, but after looking at the two people who were whispering to each other, he knew that their goal wasn't the Thunderbolt battleship. The thing they wanted to bid for hadn't appeared yet. How could they take out primeval stones to give to others? Forget it, fellow immortal Xin. How many primeval stones do you think I have? You can bid as much as you want. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and said, You're the noble princess of Chanu country. Our primeval stones can be used as a deposit first, or you can leave your scarlet flame war chariot and other things. When we return to Chanu country, you can bring back the rest of the primeval stones. Princess Baihua slightly bit her lips. She raised her eyes to look at Xiao Hua and then looked into the distance. Clearly, she had considered Xiao Hua's plan before. In just a moment, Princess Baihua stood up and transmitted a few words to Yin Sheng. When Yin Sheng heard the voice, he turned his head in astonishment. He seemed to be able to see through the brilliance of the pavilion. His gaze fell on Princess Baihua's face. Seeing the sweet smile on Princess Baihua's face, Yin Sheng's face slightly reddened. He nodded at Princess Baihua and then looked at the other pavilions. Hee, you're really beautiful, Xiao Hua said with a smile. Just saying it made sense. If I were to say it, I'm afraid I would be immediately rejected, right? Hee, brother Xiao, are you jealous? Princess Baihua raised her eyebrows. Her watery eyes seemed to be able to speak. If that's the case, then I won't bid. Don't. Xiao Hua hurriedly waved his hand. He knew that Princess Baihua was taking revenge on him for flirting with her before boarding the pleasure boat. He said, I'm old and my appetite isn't good. I don't want to eat anything. It's good that brother Xiao isn't angry, Princess Baihua said with a smile. Actually, I didn't discuss anything with this little guy. I just reported the amount of primeval stones that my Chanu country could pay for the Thunderbolt battleship. What? This time it was Xiao Hua's turn to be shocked. You don't have that many primeval stones on you. How would you dare to bid? If you won the bid and couldn't pay enough primeval stones, what would you do? Princess Baihua wasn't nervous at all. She glanced at Yin Sheng, who didn't turn around, and explained, earlier, this little guy already said clearly that the 3 treasures and primeval stones provided by the esteemed one would be handed over together after the auction. At that time, the other cultivators won't be here. Only I will be here. If he doesn't give the Thunderbolt battleship to me, who else can he give it to? Besides, I don't have that many primeval stones on me, but my Chanu country does. They only need to send a disciple to follow me. Once we arrive at Chanu country, they will immediately receive the primeval stones. Why wouldn't they be willing? Xiao Hua didn't expect Princess Baihua to be so bold. He shook his head with a bitter smile and said, Both sides have already bid. Let's wait and see. I hope fellow immortal Xian can get what she wants. AI, not necessarily. Princess Baihua also smiled bitterly. I think that those who can come here to bid for the Thunderbolt battleship must be the nobles of several countries. I may not be able to get what I want. This is the real reason why I dared to bid. Sure enough, after the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Yin Sheng raised his voice and said, Seniors, this junior obtained the number of primeval stones bid by 4 seniors. Among them, the senior in pavilion number 3 bid the highest. The secret method to make the Thunderbolt battleship will be obtained by number 3. As he spoke, the stone table that was floating in midair suddenly rotated and flew towards one of the pavilions. After it abruptly entered the pavilion, Yin Sheng smiled and said, Elder, please check the authenticity of this item. If you feel that the jade eye is a fake, please return it to this younger generation. If you think the jade eye is the real deal, please leave behind the primeval stones that senior just bid for before you leave. A faint voice came from the pavilion. Although it was very soft, it was filled with majesty. There was an unquestionable feeling. Whoosh! When Princess Baihua heard this sound, her face immediately turned pale as if there was no blood in it. Her eyes stared at the stone table that flew into the pavilion. After the stone table flew into the pavilion, it flew out again. Only after the time it takes to drink a cup of tea did color return to her snow-white face. Xiao Hua was also very curious. He didn't know who bid more than Princess Baihua, so he also looked at the pavilion and didn't notice Princess Baihua's abnormality. All right, seniors, the Thunderbolt battleship has been bid. Yin Sheng didn't miss the opportunity to raise his voice. Next, the seniors in pavilion number 1 can exercise their right to bid. If there are any treasures or things you need, you can ask for them. If Junior can help Senior, I will definitely help Senior. -11. Chapter 33:10. Okay. Not waiting for Yin Shang's voice to land. A voice from the #1 pavilion facing Xiaohua shouted, "This old man has a set of wooden ox-horse refining techniques. Whoever is interested can bid." Wooden ox-horse? Xiaohua slightly frowned. Looking at old monster Jifeng and Ao Shui who had already stopped whispering, he asked Princess Bai Hua in a somewhat puzzled voice, "Immortal Xian, this wooden ox-horse, what is it?" Actually, Xiaohua didn't want to ask too much, but he was afraid of missing out on something good. Obviously, Princess Bai Hua was also somewhat absent-minded. She didn't care about Xiaohua's ignorance and casually said, "Wooden ox-horse was originally a Mahist mechanism technique, used to make some oxen and horses to transport food. Later on, after some development, it could make wooden puppets to transport food, and even make puppets to fight." This #1 pavilion seemed to have bid for the Thunderbolt battleship before. I'm afraid he was also the ruler of a country. This wooden ox-horse should be of a higher level. It can be used to make puppets. Of course, he definitely wouldn't take out the highest level puppets to bid. Oh, so it's a puppet technique. Xiaohua immediately understood, then sighed. My Dao sect's puppet technique might be used to make a puppet to serve people, but in the hands of a Confucian cultivator, it can actually be used to fight. Although this wooden ox-horse only has puppets, it's still useful for a small country. Sure enough, as soon as Xiaohua finished talking to himself, someone immediately started bidding, and there were actually 2 people bidding. Since there were 2 people, this bidding became interesting. The 2 sides kept increasing the price. No one was willing to give way, until finally, Yin Shang could only open his mouth and say, "2 seniors, this junior has already explained the rules. The bidding can't be too long. This is the last bidding. The 2 seniors can each give the price to this senior. If possible, you can hand over the primeval stones now." Okay. Seeing that they couldn't take advantage of the situation, the 2 bidding cultivators agreed and transmitted their voices to the cultivators in the #1 pavilion. Immediately, several jade eyes flew out of the #1 pavilion. From the other pavilion, a Chinquan bag flew out. The second bidding was over. Immediately after, another cultivator coughed and said, "This old man wants the formation diagram of the 9 heavens raging fire formation. Does anyone have it?" Unfortunately, this cultivator's luck was rather bad. He repeated it 3 times in a row, but no one responded. It seemed that it wasn't that no one had this array diagram, but that no one was willing to take it out to bid. "Senior in Pavilion #2, you may begin," Yin Shang said respectfully to the person in the other pavilion. "This old man has a young profound cry beast and a secret technique to refine soul-splitting technique. If any of you are interested, you can send a message to this old man." A sharp voice said from the second pavilion, "See, a secret technique to refine the soul clone." When Xiaohua heard this, he couldn't help but become interested. However, he didn't know if this refined avatar was the same as his split avatar. After thinking for a moment, he asked Old Monster Jifeng, "Old Monster Jifeng, what is this profound cry beast? Why does it sound so unfamiliar to me?" The profound cry beast is a unique demon of the 1,000 demon sacred realms Copper Demon Ridge. Old Monster Jifeng looked at Xiaohua and explained, "Although this Copper Demon Ridge isn't the deepest part of the 1,000 demon sacred realm, it is still a bit far from the North Sea. Very few of you humans can reach it. Therefore, it is normal that you have never heard of the profound cry beast. This profound cry beast has rough skin and thick flesh since young. An adult profound cry beast is not afraid of ordinary imperial flying swords. If it is refined a little, it is even more powerful than a high-level defensive imperial flying sword. As for this cultivator's profound cry beast cub, I'm afraid its intelligence has already been controlled by the cultivator. Using the secret technique to refine the soul clone to control the profound cry beast, one can have a helper that won't betray him, and 2 can leave a seed after his main body dies. Hehe, Xiaohua, I think your Dao sect also has such a secret technique. If you are willing, you can bid for this profound cry beast, and especially the secret technique to refine the soul clone. It may be useful in the future. Hehe, since you know that my Dao sect has such a secret technique, then why do I still need to spend primeval stones to bid?" Xiao Hua listened to old monster Ji Feng's explanation and knew that this so-called primeval spirit refining technique was close to the Dao sect's insidious method of possession. He had long lost interest in it and only retorted with a smile. Old monster Ji Feng glanced at Ao Shuai, who was looking outside the pavilion and ignoring Xiao Hua, and said with a smile, "I just feel that it is not easy for you to come here. Moreover, I can't give you any benefits, so I reminded you." "Thank you very much, Elder," Xiao Hua said with a smile. "Actually, since we are already here, if you have any information about this auction, why don't you tell me in advance? This is much more useful than the reminder just now." "Hee, since you are already here, do you know what is the point of bidding? It is better to watch others arrange it like this." At this time, old monster Ji Feng still didn't tell Xiao Hua what he wanted to bid for. This was really somewhat thought-provoking. Xiao Hua looked at old monster Ji Feng's still warm smile and the unchanging craftiness in his eyes, then looked at Ao Shuai's arrogance and shook his head slightly. He was not afraid of old monster Ji Feng, but he was somewhat afraid of Ao Shuai. But now it seemed that the possibility of the two of them working together to deal with him was not high. Moreover, he was still in this auction. Even if the two of them worked together to deal with him, they would still have to take Master Nine Firmament's face into consideration. In particular, Xiao Hua believed that old monster Ji Feng did not have too many reasons to deal with him. The only possibility was the heavenly horse. If he could bid for something that he liked in the auction, Xiao Hua was still willing to take this risk. The shimming beast was a bit unfamiliar to Xiao Hua, but to the other cultivators of the hidden immortal continent, it seemed to only be a relatively rare monster beast. After this cultivator spoke, no one responded. At this time, Yin Sheng suddenly raised his head, and a respectful expression appeared on his face. He nodded slightly and said, "Senior, my master is more interested in your soul refining method. If you are willing, you can tell me the amount of origin stones you want to bid. If it is suitable, my master will take it. He won't let Senior return empty-handed." "Hee, thank you very much, Master." That person chuckled. He knew that Master Nine Firmaments didn't want to have a situation where someone had just bid for it. After thanking him, he said a few words to Yin Sheng, and then the jade eye flew out of the pavilion and landed on the stone table. "May I know if the other seniors in Pavilion Number 2 have anything that I can help you with?" After Pavilion Number 1 had handed over the goods, Yin Sheng respectfully asked Pavilion Number 2, "Cough cough, I need a Buddhist sect's third transformation soul nourishing pill. I wonder if Master has it." A hoarse voice sounded slightly weak. "Third transformation?" Ao Shuai hadn't said anything, as if he disdained to be with Xiao Hua. When he heard the old woman's request, he couldn't help but be slightly stunned. He opened his wide dragon mouth and sneered. How can the hidden immortal continent have such a Buddha pill? Even in the pure land world, I'm afraid it's not easy to get it. This person is a bit delusional. What the patrol envoy said is very true. Old monster Ji Feng also echoed. This third transformation soul nourishing pill requires the sarira of a Buddhist sect senior monk who has reincarnated for 3 lifetimes. This kind of rare pill is controlled by the Great Lightning Tune Temple. If it isn't someone who has made a great contribution to the Buddhist sect, it's impossible to get a reward. Although Master Nine Firmaments has great power, I'm afraid it's hard to satisfy, right? Sure enough, a difficult voice sounded out, "Fellow immortal, I have to disappoint you. This old man really doesn't have a third transformation soul nourishing pill. However, if your soul is damaged, this old man does have a few Dao sect soul replenishing pills. Do you need them?" "Forget it." The old woman was very disappointed. She coughed twice and said, "Although the Dao sect's pills have spiritual effects, they are useless to this old man. Many thanks for Master's good intentions." It seems like the other fellow immortals also don't have this item. I have to disappoint fellow immortal. No matter, this old woman has been disappointed more than once or twice. Maybe it's because I don't have enough luck. After the old woman finished speaking, she didn't say anything else. Yin Sheng waited for a moment and then said respectfully to the third pavilion, "May I ask the senior of the third pavilion, how may I be of service?" "This servant wants to ask Master to help this servant kill someone." A clear voice said. "Damn it." Xiao Hua was stunned when he heard this. Looking at the similarly stunned princess by Hua, he blurted out, Is this still an auction? How can it take the life of the buyer? Unfortunately, Xiao Hua still underestimated the moral integrity of many people. Yin Shang didn't even need Master Nine Firmaments to open his mouth and said very familiarly, "Who is the enemy that Senior wants to kill?" Senior needs to clearly explain this person's origin so that Junior can quote a price based on this information. This person's information is here. Saying this, a jade eye flew out from the pavilion and landed on the stone table. Senior, please wait a moment. After Junior finishes looking at it, there will naturally be someone who will trade with Senior, Yin Shang said respectfully after seeing the stone table once again disappear into the stone wall. Seeing this scene, Xiao Hua's heart suddenly turned cold. The little bit of hope that he had placed on Master Nine Firmaments immediately disappeared. Following that, he became vigilant towards Old Monster Jifeng. This place was indeed as dangerous as Zhu Qing said. Since lives could be traded here, how could Master Nine Firmaments protect his own safety? Of course, Xiao Hua also believed that Master Nine Firmaments would maintain the reputation of this auction, but what if Old Monster Jifeng paid a certain price? However, thinking of the price, Xiao Hua smiled again. He really wasn't afraid of Old Monster Jifeng paying a price to ask Master Nine Firmaments to help. Does Senior of the third pavilion have anything else? If not, Junior will bid for the second treasure this time. Yin Shang waited for a moment and didn't see anyone speak, so he reminded, "I have something here that I obtained by chance. I don't know what it is. Previously, I brought it to the auction, but no one offered a price. Today, I brought it here to ask Master Nine Firmaments to appraise and see what it is." A similarly dignified voice sounded, "If it is a treasure, would Master be interested?" -11. Chapter 33:11. Senior, please take that item out. Yin Shang's tone was still respectful. That person was a little troubled. This item is rather special. It's so slippery that it can't be sensed. It's not easy for me to control it. Little friend, please come to the pavilion and take it. All right. Yin Shang heard and was about to walk along the light under his feet. However, that person's voice rang out again. Little friend Yin Shang, if you don't have a special container, this item can't be held by hand. It doesn't have a specific shape. Little friend, please take a special container from the esteemed lord first. Oh. Yin Shang was stunned. He asked curiously, Senior, how did you take it? Can't you just give it to this junior together with the container? Ah? Yes. That person seemed to have come to a realization. Almost everyone could see that person holding his forehead with one hand. Ha ha ha. Almost everyone laughed. The only one who didn't laugh was Xiao Hua. Previously, when Xiao Hua heard that this item was slippery and couldn't be sensed with his origin sense, his heart was moved. Why did this item sound like exquisite gold? Even if it wasn't exquisite gold, it probably wasn't an item of the 5 elements. Xiao Hua couldn't help but be interested. When he heard that this item didn't have a shape, his heart skipped a beat. His eyes were filled with eagerness. He turned a blind eye to that person's embarrassment of not having much common sense. If that's the case, then there's no need for little friend to come over. That person came to a realization and immediately flew out a small green gourd from the third pavilion. Like before, it landed on the stone table and disappeared into the stone wall along with the stone table. It was only for a moment. However, in this moment, Xiao Hua was like an ant on a hot pan. He was anxious and uncertain. He was afraid that Yin Shang's words would kill his hopes of bidding for this item. Princess Baihua was also somewhat absent-minded. It seemed that after she heard that voice, she had been restless. Therefore, she didn't notice Xiao Hua's abnormal state. After a moment, on the stone wall that Xiao Hua was staring at, a light flashed and the stone table appeared. The small green gourd was still on top of it. Xiao Hua couldn't help but sigh in relief. Yin Sheng raised his voice and said, Senior, the esteemed one has already taken a look at it. This item is a material that the Taoist sect uses to refine equipment. As for what it is, even the esteemed one isn't sure. However, he was certain that this item was not within the 5 elements, so it would not be easy to refine this so-called magic tool. However, if he could successfully refine it, then it would definitely be an extremely amazing magic tool. I'm very sorry, but this item is of no use to venerable master. Senior, please ask if there are any Dao sect cultivators in the auction house. Alas, I understand. That person was also a little disappointed, as if casting pearls before swine. After all, Master Nine Heavens had said it very well. This thing was really rare. But it was precisely because it was so rare that no one in the hidden immortal continent could use it. Motherfucker, say something. When Xiaohua saw the small green jade gourd flying towards the third pavilion, he almost stretched out a hand from his throat. Although he couldn't be sure that this small green jade gourd was definitely the exquisite gold, but based on the fact that it was not within the 5 elements, it was still worth it for him to make a move. But the problem was, if that person didn't say anything and he rashly bid, it would definitely attract the attention of others. Perhaps he would have to pay a lot of primeval stones to obtain this exquisite gold. And Xiaohua's current problem was that he didn't have too many top-grade primeval stones in his space. It was very clear that that person didn't know that Xiaohua was fervently wanting it. There were a total of 9 pavilions, and each pavilion only had 2 or 3 people. Today, the Dao sect was in decline. How could there be someone among the dozen or so people in this auction who needed this rare item that ordinary Dao sect cultivators couldn't use? That person had already given up. Seeing that the small green jade gourd was about to land in the third pavilion, Xiaohua could only take the initiative to attack. Fellow immortal, where did you get this small green jade gourd? How many things can it hold? Oh? The person in the third pavilion was clearly startled, as if he didn't understand Xiaohua's meaning. This item was obtained by myself. Speaking up to hear, that person suddenly came to a realization and said with some embarrassment and anger, I didn't come to bid for this green jade gourd. Why are you asking this? Hee, fellow immortal, don't be angry. Xiaohua said with a smile, I know you're bidding for that rare item that's not within the 5 elements, but I just happen to need something that can hold liquids, imperial equipment, and I need to hold a lot of them. So I wanted to ask if fellow immortal could part with it. Of course, if fellow immortal is willing, I'm willing to pay a high price. Hee, you really have good taste. That person was somewhat proud. Although my green jade gourd can't compare to the pure water bottle that I took from Liao Jiangshui in the longevity town, it can still hold half of Liao Jiangshui. Huh? In an instant, Xiaohua seemed to have been petrified, almost standing there in a daze. He didn't think that the matter of him revealing the pure water bottle on Liao Jiangshui would be known by others so quickly. Then, Xiaohua's eyes turned, and he probed, fellow immortal, what do you mean? I don't quite understand. Seems like you're really not a Buddhist monk. That person wasn't as reckless as Xiaohua had imagined. He actually opened his mouth and said, this matter has spread like wildfire in the Buddhist sections. You actually don't know that a bald donkey who attained the Avalokitesvara Buddha fruit used the clear water bottle to collect the entire Liao River in the longevity town? You're really ignorant and ill-informed. This is the first Buddhist monk to attain Avalokitesvara in the hidden immortal continent. Right now, who knows how many good men and women who were deceived by this monk are heading to the longevity town, and who knows how many monks are heading to the longevity town to worship this unprecedented bodhisattva. Cough, cough. Yin Sheng lightly coughed twice, and said with a smile, 2 seniors, this is a auction. Don't mention anything that isn't auctioned. If senior has the heart to part with it, feel free to send a voice transmission to this senior from pavilion number 9. Hee, many thanks for little friend's reminder. I understand. Everyone, please wait a moment. That person laughed, and immediately sent a voice transmission. This immortal friend. Let's not beat around the bush. Although I'm not a Confucian cultivator, the cunning in my stomach is not any less than you humans. You also don't play this kind of trick of buying the casket and returning the pearl. Say it, how many primeval stones do you want to bid for this item? Motherfucker, these goblins have all become goblins. They actually saw through this Xiao's thoughts. Xiaohua cursed in his heart, but seeing that no one was bidding with him, his heart also calmed down slightly. I don't know what immortal friend's bottom line is. Xiaohua didn't hide it and sent a voice transmission. I'm indeed interested in that thing that isn't in the 5 elements. However, to be honest, it's precisely because I'm embarrassed that I have no choice but to use this method. I hope immortal friend can understand. And, I know, who doesn't want to pay less than one primeval stone? That person was rather straightforward, and very quickly reported a number. This number was clearly out of Xiao Hua's expectations. He bitterly smiled and sent a voice transmission to that person. Immortal friend, isn't this too much? Even if this treasure of yours is rare, it's not worth so many primeval stones. This thing might not be worth it, but with this jasper gourd, of course it's worth it. That person chuckled coldly. Without this jasper gourd, how could you take this item away? Sigh. So in this price of yours, the jasper gourd took up half of it. Xiao Hua bitterly smiled. Looks like I have no choice but to stretch out my neck and be slaughtered. You think this thing is easy to get? That person mocked. That day when I came across this item, just thinking of a way to get it took me several hours. This jasper gourd was. I obtained it with great difficulty, and only then did I manage to get it. Now that you've picked up a bargain, you naturally have to pay more primeval stones. Let's negotiate. Xiao Hua obviously couldn't take out that many primeval stones and probed. I don't have that many primeval stones. What else do you need? Are you crazy? That person became angry as soon as he heard. What are you bidding for if you don't have primeval stones? You're wasting my time for no reason. Don't be anxious. Xiao Hua was amused. I have a lot of spiritual herbs here. Enough to make up for the primeval stones. Spiritual herbs? What kind of spiritual herbs do you have? Upon hearing spiritual herbs, that person's tone changed slightly. Hearing that, Xiao Hua knew that he had made the right bet again. This person should also be a demon from the Thousand Demons sacred realm. Demons didn't know how to grow spiritual herbs, and could only harvest them in the Thousand Demons sacred realm. With so many demons and spiritual herbs were naturally popular in the eyes of demons. What do you want? This time, it was Xiao Hua's turn to take the initiative. Let's not waste time. After you say it, let's quickly settle the deal. Don't make Master Nine Heavens unhappy. All right, hearing Master Nine Heavens' name, that person's heart tightened, and he hurriedly told him the spiritual herbs he wanted and the amount. Xiao Hua calculated in his heart. The price was about the same as Zhai Xing Lu's, so he didn't lose out. Thus, he transmitted his voice, fellow immortal, to tell you the truth. I do have these spiritual herbs, but I want to see if there are better things later. So, I can only use half of the spiritual herbs to exchange for that thing of yours. What do you think? Hearing that, that person was silent for a moment, then transmitted his voice again. To tell you the truth, using half of the spiritual herbs to exchange for this thing is a big bargain for you. I originally didn't intend to trade with you. Furthermore, you definitely have the means to keep this item. That's why you caught my faulty wording just now. If you take the jasper gourd, keep this item first, and then only give me half of the spiritual herbs, even if I'm not satisfied. I'll still have to swallow my pride and swallow my pride. After all, taking the thing first and then paying the primeval stones is the rule set by Master Nine Heavens. I have no choice but to follow. However, seeing that you are indeed honest and said this before the trade, I will reluctantly trade with you. Hee, many thanks, fellow immortal. Xiao Hua smiled, then transmitted his voice again. Actually, fellow immortal didn't lose out much. This thing, to tell you the truth, it's of little value. I took it and wanted to try out a new refining method. Oh, you know how to refine? Are you a Taoist cultivator? That person's tone revealed a kind of ecstasy. -11. Chapter 33:12. This is bad. Xiao Hua bitterly laughs in his heart. The more you speak, the more likely you will make mistakes. This is truly an unbreakable truth. This one only has a rough understanding and cannot be considered an expert. Xiao Hua hurriedly says, if a mortal friend has any requests, this one is afraid that I cannot fulfill them. You humans are indeed hypocritical. Just now, Venerable Nine Heavens already said that this item cannot be used unless one has extremely high refining skills. If you are not confident, how could you spend so many spirit herbs to bid for this item? That person says unhappily, if you are not willing, I am also not willing to make a deal with you. Seeing that the jasper gourd is still outside the third pavilion, Yansheng urges, seniors, have you finished the deal? Xiao Hua helplessly sends a voice transmission. All right. But I wonder what immortal friend wants this one to refine. This item is rather troublesome. This one has yet to collect all the materials. That person does not hide and says, this one will give you an address. 3 years later, you can come here. If this one is able to collect all the materials, I will ask you to refine it. Oh, right. What is your name? Don't let this one not find you when the time comes. Dao Sec's Xiaohua. Xiaohua does not hide and says, all right, you can also take this jasper gourd. Consider it the down payment for this one's request. That person does not say his name. His jade eyes fall on the stone table, and the table immediately flies in front of Xiaohua. Seeing Xiaohua bid, Princess Bai Hua calms down the chaos in her heart and looks at Xiaohua strangely. After Xiaohua receives the jasper gourd, he takes out a small Qinkuan bag and places it on the stone table. Only then does she say in a low voice, Brother Xiao, why are you bidding for this strange item? This time, Xiaohua does not say anything about refining anymore. He says with a smile, there are not many things from the Dao sect in this auction. It is not easy to meet one. How can I not bid? Princess Bai Hua only glances at Xiaohua and does not ask anymore. It seems like she does not believe what Xiaohua said too much. All right, seniors, let's start bidding for the second treasure of this auction. When Yin Sheng saw the stone table fly into the third pavilion, he immediately said, this item is one of the 10 great imperial equipment. I won't introduce it any further. Seniors, please bid for it. Although Yin Sheng didn't mention the name of the 10 great imperial artifacts, Xiaohua already realized that Venerable Nine Heavens had arranged 9 pavilions. The first 3 pavilions were for the first treasure, the middle 3 pavilions were for the second treasure, and the last 3 pavilions were for the third treasure. Old monster Zhifeng, an old monster of the Thousand Devil Sacred Realm, would definitely not be interested in the 10 great imperial artifacts, and the 3 pavilions that were interested in the 10 great imperial artifacts already knew the name of the imperial artifact. Xiaohua also didn't care about the imperial equipment. He just sat there quietly as his mind entered the space. Inside the space, Xiaohua waved his hand, and the jade gourd appeared in his hand. Then, he flicked his hand, and sure enough, another exquisite gold flew out from the jade gourd, like a cloud floating in front of Xiaohua. Good, Xiaohua was overjoyed. Although the current wishful steel staff could only be considered a heaven-leveling staff, it could only extend about 10 feet. If he could add another piece of exquisite gold and extend it another 10 feet, it could barely be considered a wishful steel staff. Fellow Taoist, please show yourself. Xiaohua smiled and called out to tracing light in the sky. Io, fellow Taoist, do you want to tire I to death? However, a ripple flashed in midair, and the green-robed Xiaohua appeared out of thin air. When he saw the exquisite gold in front of him, he understood. He smiled bitterly and said, you want me to refine this, so you want me to comprehend it. Do you think this poor Taoist is you? Just now, I saw a pile of broken artifacts being sent in, and before I could figure out what was going on, fellow Taoist brought this thing in again. Fellow Taoist, capable people do more work. Xiaohua smiled and said, the other fellow Taoists don't know how to refine artifacts. If I don't look for you, who else can I look for? Besides, don't you want to see what the real wishful steel staff looks like? Good boy, with a swing of 20 feet in the wind. It's awe-inspiring just thinking about it. Enough, enough. The green-robed Xiaohua's face was actually expressionless, but his tone was rich. Fellow Taoist, please fool I. Even if it's awe-inspiring, it's your awe-inspiring. It has nothing to do with I. I's awe-inspiring. Isn't that fellow Taoist's awe-inspiring? Xiaohua said as if he was coaxing a child. If there is no fellow Taoist's hard work, how can I have everyone's awe-inspiring awe-inspiring? Hee, forget it, forget it. For fellow Taoist's sincerity, I will accept it. The green-robed Xiaohua said with a smile. Thank you, fellow Taoist. Xiaohua said, oh, this jasper gourd is good, but unfortunately, it's still not enough. I will also refine it. It seemed that the green-robed Xiaohua was in a good mood. He actually took the initiative to grab the jasper gourd and the exquisite gold in his hand, and then he disappeared in a flash. Hee. Jade Archive Xiaohua smiled and looked into the distance again. There was a patch of green spiritual grass where the Pegasus was leisurely eating grass. Although its expression was still a little dispirited, its relaxed pace showed that it was very comfortable. The location of the Pegasus was naturally imprisoned by Xiaohua. The Pegasus could only see darkness, and it should be no different from when it was in the small Chinquan bag. He was not worried that the Pegasus would reveal the secret of the space. Very good. Xiaohua was happy in his heart, and the sunlight in the whole space became more and more brilliant. When Xiaohua was about to leave, his eyes fell on the Iceworm King's egg and other things. Whether it was the Iceworm King's egg, the water-pattern butterfly's egg, or even the dream mirage butterfly's egg and those spirit-swallowing bugs, they had been in Xiaohua's space for hundreds of years, and even went through the separation of yin and yang. If they were ordinary eggs, they would have hatched long ago and even grown into spiritual beasts. But these eggs not only did not hatch, but also became more silent, especially those spirit-swallowing bugs and wood-swallowing bugs. They closed their eyes and slept. If not for Xiaohua being able to sense the vitality in their bodies and the faint golden runes around the eggs and spiritual beasts, Xiaohua would really think that these things had died when the yin and yang separated. Forget it. Let's see what happens to them. Although Xiaohua could control the whole space, he did not understand the growth of these spiritual beasts. It seemed that there were still many things that he needed to understand and practice. When Xiaohua withdrew his eyes from these spiritual beasts, he looked at the little lightning beast floating under the nameless item in the sky with its eyes closed. Then, he flashed into the yin side of the space. Compared to the vitality of the yang side of the space, the yin side of the space was equally dense with the aura of death. Wisps of the essence of the blood sea entered Shue's helpless soul through the nether lotus and nether bamboo, and the purple mist lingered around them all the time. The stone statue of Zhang Xiaohua that accompanied Shue's soul was also flashing with blood-red light and black mist. The originally ordinary appearance of Zhang Xiaohua had now become somewhat majestic. Countless blood-red lights penetrated into the stone statue from the nether lotus like gossamer, and countless black threads flashed out from the banner of Qiyu, fusing with the blood-red lights. Even the wisps of purple mist that only Xiaohua could see were entering the stone statue's body through the blood-red lights. Sigh. Looking at all these unchanging, Xiaohua sighed and disappeared from the inside of the space again. When Xiaohua's mind left the space, there was not much change in the auction hall. However, on the table floating in the air, there was an additional cloth that was commonly used by Confucian scholars. Oh, the ever-changing cloth. Xiaohua immediately understood when he saw this object, and his divine sense involuntarily swept out. He saw that the ever-changing scarf was no different from an ordinary Confucian scarf. However, when his divine sense swept over it, traces of fluctuations that Xiaohua was very familiar with came from the Confucian scarf. Oh, star power. Xiaohua was secretly shocked. It seems that what Fu Jiwen said was true. This Confucian cloth can really communicate with the stars. It allows people to borrow the power of the stars to cultivate. The ever-changing cloth's so-called ever-changing cloth must be achieved through the use of the star power. In this world, the star power is everywhere, stronger than the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. In addition, it has the effect of destroying evil, and is used for ouch. Thinking of this, Xiaohua was suddenly shocked. The star power. What is the connection between it and the noble spirit? The scrolls commonly used by Confucian cultivators are all drawn with the noble spirit. This ever-changing scarf allows Confucian cultivators to draw upon the power of the stars to draw scrolls. Therefore, the power of the stars must be related to the noble spirit. What is the connection? In an instant, Xiaohua immediately made up his mind. Without hesitation, he was about to send a message. Unfortunately, he had just said a few words when Yin Sheng smiled at Xiaohua and said, "Senior, you are too late. Just now, the senior in the 5th pavilion has already bid for this ever-changing cloth. If senior is interested in this imperial equipment, you should negotiate with that senior in private." As Yin Sheng's voice fell, the stone table flew towards the 5th pavilion and disappeared in a moment. When it flew out, the stone table was already empty. What a pity! Xiaohua inwardly regretted. He heard Yin Sheng ask the fourth pavilion if they had any requests. Clearly, just as Xiao Hua had guessed, number 4, number 5, and number 6 were Confucian cultivators who had been invited by Venerable Master Nine Heavens to bid for the Myriad Transformations handkerchief. Afterward, number 4 and number 5 made requests and took out treasures that Confucian cultivators could use. Not only had Xiao Hua never heard of them, but he also didn't have any use for them. Therefore, he only listened and didn't have any intention of bidding. On the contrary, Princess Baihua was very interested in the flying phoenix hairpin taken out by the fourth Confucian cultivator. The Confucian cultivator claimed that this so-called flying phoenix hairpin was an imitation of the imperial equipment of the Immortal Palace's imperial empress. This gimmick immediately attracted the bidding of 3 female cultivators. Princess Baihua had already bid for the Scarlet Flame War Chariot. She also saw Xiao Hua bid for the exquisite gold just now, so she was embarrassed and couldn't raise the price. In the end, she returned empty-handed. Looking at the 6th pavilion, Yin Sheng once again invited, "Senior in the 6th pavilion, you can state your request now." -11. Chapter 33:13. I don't have any requests. A slightly old voice said, however, "This old man has a secret technique of the Buddhist sect. This old man obtained it from an eminent Buddhist monk. To be honest, I am not interested in the Buddhist sect. I am only impressed by the character of this senior monk. This senior monk is different from those monks who say one thing but mean another. Not only is he compassionate, he also teaches others to be kind. I have known him for more than 10 years, and I have never seen him do anything that makes me uncomfortable. Of course, this old monk has tried to persuade me to enter the Buddhist sect more than once. This is the only thing that makes me unhappy. As the saying goes, those who walk different paths cannot make plans together. Because of this, I have deliberately kept a certain distance from him. Who would have thought? Last year, this old monk came to visit me again. He only said a few words, and he revealed his intention to entrust me to find a successor in the hidden immortal continent. How could I agree to such a thing that goes against the righteousness of my Confucian cultivation? I immediately refused and even showed my determination to sever our relationship. Only then did he give up on his original intention. But what makes things difficult for me is that this old monk actually passed away in my house. He even gave me this Buddhist secret technique before he passed away and told me to find a fated person. How do you want me to deal with this? This old man seems to be telling a story. Even Yin Sheng listens with great interest. But thinking about it, this is this old monk's last wish. I have no choice but to agree. Even before the people from the Buddhist sect came, I did not mention this matter. The old man finally says, "Previously, I really did not think of this matter. Now that we are in the auction, I will find a fated person for this old monk. This can also be considered as ending this matter. I wonder if Master Nine Firmaments is interested?" Haha. It seems like Master Nine Firmaments was also listening attentively. Before the old man could finish speaking, Master Nine Firmaments laughed and said, "This old man has Buddhist relics, Buddhist artifacts, and Buddhist secret techniques. I don't lack anything from Buddhist sections. That old monk's obsession does not seem to be pure. I have a source for all my Buddhist items. There is no need for me to be a fated person. Fellow immortal should find someone else." All right then. Since Master Nine Firmaments doesn't want it, let's look at the others. The old man said helplessly, "Oh, that's right. Esteemed Lord, this old man has a presumptuous request. Please forgive me. Fellow immortal, please speak." Venerable Nine Firmaments said, "This old man doesn't wish to bid for this Buddhist sect's secret technique via voice transmission. It's better for everyone to bid. Today is the Hungry Ghost Festival. If this old monk's soul is nearby, he will be able to hear me. This old man has a clear conscience." Haha, it's already past midnight. Even the ghosts of the Buddhism sect have already returned to the Nirvana world. Why are they wandering here for no reason? Master Nine Firmaments smiled and said, "But since fellow immortal doesn't think it's fun, you can bid for this Buddhist secret law?" Many thanks, Venerable. The old man thanked Venerable Nine Firmaments and said, "Which immortal friend wants to bid? I would like to ask, what is this secret technique?" A woman's voice sounded. I don't know. The old man immediately replied. As the saying goes, don't look at indecent things. This old man doesn't like the Buddhism sect and is afraid that this secret technique will dirty my eyes. That's why I have never opened it. The woman heard this and immediately said, Okay, I bid 10,000 top-grade primordial stones. As soon as the woman finished speaking, a person from the third pavilion immediately shouted, I bid 50,000 top-grade primordial stones. I bid 60,000. Princess Bai Hua saw this and snorted with disdain. Humph, another Buddhist sect king. Why do you care? Xiao Hua smiled. Maybe this king is the fated person that the old monk was talking about. Princess Bai Hua very fiercely asked. Why is it that the king is and you and I aren't? Xiao Hua shrugged and said to this somewhat unreasonable beautiful woman, Fate is fate. Fate is fate. Fate is fate. Fate is fate is fate. If fate is fate, then fate is also fate. If fate is fate, then fate is also fate. Ha. Princess Bai Hua smiled like 100 flowers blooming. If Brother Xiao shaved his head, just by this sentence, you can pretend to be a Buddhist sect high monk? Ha. I am a Buddhist sect high monk. Xiao Hua laughed, his eyes flashing with a strange light. Princess Bai Hua pouted. Her dark red lips seemed to be able to tie a little white rabbit. Only a ghost would believe you. As the two were talking, the person who seemed to be the king had already increased the bid to 200,000 top-grade primordial stones, seemingly determined to win. And the woman was obviously not a match for him. She already began to hesitate. I bid 210,000. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from the 9th pavilion where Xiao Hua was. Suddenly, everyone's eyes fell on him, although they couldn't see the situation inside. Oh, Inspector. Old Monster Jifeng was shocked. Why are you bidding for this Buddhism sect secret technique? No problem. Ao Shuai's face was full of confidence. I have a lot of primordial stones and treasures. I won't delay the bidding. 250,000. At the end, Ao Shuai didn't forget to increase the bid. It was as if he was determined to win. But, Brother Ao. Hearing this, Old Monster Jifeng smiled bitterly. This is a Buddhism sect secret technique. What does it have to do with your dragon palace? Why are you bidding for it? Hee. Didn't you hear what the Confucian said? This was left behind by a Buddhist sect high monk before he passed away. There must be something fishy about it. Don't worry, my intuition won't be wrong. Ao Shuai said proudly, otherwise, it wouldn't attract two people to bid at once. Besides, my dragon palace has countless treasures. We don't lack these primordial stones. Who knows when a Buddhism sect secret technique will be useful? Okay. The primordial stones were Ao Shuai's. How could others care? Old Monster Jifeng could only nod helplessly. His only hope was that Ao Shuai had enough primordial stones on him now, so he wouldn't delay the bidding for the last treasure. 350,000. This was Ao Shuai's last bid, and it immediately silenced the person who seemed to be the king. Okay, this senior bid 350,000 top-grade primordial stones. Is there anyone else who wants to bid? If no one bids, then it's seniors. Yin Sheng said with a smile. Hee. Just as Ao Shuai was about to place the pearl on his chest, another voice sounded. Once this voice sounded, not to mention the bidders, even Master Nine Heavens was surprised, because this voice still came from Pavilion number 9, and what was even more inconceivable was that this voice was calling out a bid of 1 copper coin. Xiao, Brother Xiao. Princess Bai Hua had never been so surprised before. Looking at Xiao Hua who stood up, she stuttered. You actually bid a copper coin? You're not joking? That's right. This voice was Xiao Hua, and Xiao Hua's face was calm. Senior, you're joking, right? Sure enough, Yin Sheng immediately shouted. The senior beside you has already bid 350,000 top-grade primordial stones. How can you bid a copper coin? Don't worry, little friend Yin Sheng. The Confucian scholar who had been silent all this time said calmly, Why is this immortal only bidding a copper coin? It's very simple. The Buddhist secret art is only worth a copper coin. Xiao Hua said indifferently, I only want to take a look at the contents. If my Tao sect can cultivate it, then I will definitely cultivate it. If it's not suitable for my Tao sect, then I will immediately destroy this secret technique. Good. Just as everyone was about to understand, the Confucian scholar shouted, "This immortal is indeed the fated one in this old man's heart. This Buddhist secret technique belongs to you, fellow immortal." Wait a moment. Ao Shuai sneered. This old man bid so high. Why don't you bid for the Buddhist secret art? Hee, immortal friend, the Confucian scholar also sneered. Who said you can only bid higher in a bid? This old man's secret art is for the lowest bidder. And to tell you the truth, when the Buddhist sect came to collect the old monk's Saraira, this old man didn't return it to them because I didn't want them to obtain it. If this old man wants to be loyal to someone, then I must find the fated one. As for whether we are fated or not, this old man has the final say. This immortal friend, please give this old man a copper coin. This old man has finally settled this matter. This can also be considered a perfect explanation for the old monk. The Confucian scholar seemed to be even more impatient than Xiao Hua. All right, fellow immortal, please take it. Xiao Hua stretched out his hand and took out a copper coin from his bosom. If he didn't go to the longevity town, how could he have the lowest bid in this world? With a flick of Xiao Hua's finger, the copper coin drew an arc in the air and fell into the sixth pavilion. Immediately after, the stone table also flew in. In a moment, a Buddhist certificate was brought in front of Xiao Hua by the stone table. Immortal friend, remember your promise. If you can cultivate it, then you must cultivate it. The Confucian scholar didn't forget to remind Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua turned his head and looked at Ao Shuai. His face was ashen from anger. He said with a smile, "This one is the fated one. Naturally, I will do as I promised. If I can't cultivate it, then I will definitely destroy it." Good. The Confucian scholar answered with a single word and didn't say anything else. Little bastard, you are going against this old man. Ao Shuai saw Xiao Hua take the certificate and his eyes were almost burning with anger. He shouted fiercely. Xiao Hua smiled faintly. I have already said it clearly. The lowest bidder will get it. Brother Ao, do you think you can get it? You. Ao Shuai said you a few times. He didn't know what to say. What qualifications do you have to call this old man Brother Ao? All right, Brother Ao. Xiao Hua had no choice but to reluctantly call out, You. Ao Shuai's bloody mouth opened and closed, and he almost jumped up. -11. Chapter 33:14. AI, fellow immortal, how do you want me to address you? If you want to say it, then say it clearly. As long as you say it, I will know. If you don't say it, how can I know? Since you don't want to say it, I can only call you that. But now that you're not satisfied, you should tell me what you think. If you say it, I can't not address you the way you want me to address you. Only if you say it will I know what you think. I can address you as if you're satisfied. It's impossible that I won't address you that way if you say it. If you don't say it, I'll address you that way. Let's be reasonable. Now, I will count to 3. You have to say clearly what you want me to call you. Xiao Hua was in a good mood. His words made Ao Shuai, Zhifeng, and Princess Baihua dizzy. Ao Shuai and old monster Zhifeng looked at Xiao Hua in disbelief. Then, they used their hands to pull their ears, as if they wanted to drag Xiao Hua's words out of their ears and listen to it again. Princess Baihua was even more exaggerated. She immediately covered her stomach with her hands and leaned on the stone table, unable to get up. Obviously, she was laughing so hard that her stomach hurt. Not to mention the mess Xiao Hua had made in Pavilion Number 9. Within the stone wall, in a slightly gloomy triangular space, Master 9 Firmaments and the cultivator named Qingyu, who had just disappeared, had grave expressions on their faces. Master 9 Firmament's eyes flickered with a dark golden light, as if he was looking outside. How is it? Qingyu couldn't help but ask. The auction is about to end. There seems to be no trace of it. Master 9 Firmament's face showed some disappointment. Then, his eyes flashed rapidly. Master 9 Firmaments quickly closed his eyes and sighed. This time, I'm afraid our efforts will be in vain. Perhaps. Qingyu glanced at Master 9 Firmaments and said in a low voice, Take a rest first. This is a crucial moment. You can't slack off. Also, let them bid first. Leave that thing for last. Okay, I will tell Yin Sheng. Master Nine Firmaments didn't open his eyes. Then, he gave Yin Sheng a few instructions. Seniors. When Yin Sheng received the voice transmission, he immediately bowed respectfully and said, Esteemed Lord, the 2 rare items that you have prepared have been bid for. Now, we should enter the 3rd segment and bid for the last rare item. However, the 3rd segment will be different from the previous 2. The rarer items prepared by the Venerable Master will be placed at the end. Before that, please bid for the rarer items first. After bidding for the rarer items, this junior will respectfully send you all out. Then hurry up. Old Monster Jifeng was dizzy from Xiao Hua's tongue-twisting words. He didn't understand the meaning behind it for a long time. Now that he heard that the treasure he had been looking forward to for a long time was actually going to be delayed, he couldn't help but jump up. He was about to get angry, but he was worried about Master Nine Firmament's face, so he hurriedly urged him with a dark expression. Yes, please place your bid. Yin Sheng said hurriedly and turned his attention to Pavilion number 7. I don't have anything to bid for. A very loud voice sounded like muffled thunder. I just saw that someone could actually buy a life, and I suddenly remembered something. 2,000 years ago, an extremely strange thing happened in the Thousand Demons' sacred realms Sangqiong Mountain. I want to know the truth behind it. I want to know who the main culprit is. Senior. Yin Sheng was a bit flabbergasted. You should at least tell us what that strange thing is, right? How can this junior and the others find out the truth? If you can't even find out about that strange thing, how can you talk about finding out the truth? That man's voice sounded again, not mentioning anything about what happened in Sangqiong Mountain. This immortal friend. Just as Yin Sheng was feeling a bit awkward, Master Nine Firmaments opened his mouth. I have heard about what happened in Sangqiong Mountain. It's a pity that I and the others only opened an auction to make a small fortune. Things like buying a life can be done with difficulty. What a mortal friend wants, I'm afraid it can't be done without a lot of manpower and material resources. I and the others temporarily don't have this ability. So it's like that. That man didn't seem to have any objections. It looked like it was really a last-minute idea. However, a woman's voice beside him said, Then may I ask, Master, if we want to know the truth, who should we look for? How many primordial stones do we need? Master Nine Firmaments hesitated slightly, then smiled and said, Tongzhou country's Zhai Xinglu will do. As for how many primordial stones, that will depend on the other party's price. Zhai Xinglu? That woman was very shocked. Isn't it just an ordinary auction? The things inside are very ordinary. How can they compare to you? Haha, immortal friend really thinks too highly of this old man. Master Nine Firmaments laughed. We can only wander between light and darkness. How can we compare to Zhai Xinglu? I won't go into the details. Immortal friend, don't worry. As long as they agree, we will definitely find out who the main culprit is. We just need to see what price you can pay. All right, thank you for your reminder. We really underestimated Zhai Xinglu. That woman continued. Our goal today is the last treasure prepared by Master. There is nothing else to bid for. All right, then may I ask what the senior from Pavilion number 8 wants to bid? Yin Sheng saw this and asked another pavilion. 9 Firmaments, in the small space. Qingyu smiled bitterly. It seems like this delaying tactic won't work. The last 2 are here for that thing. They don't dare to spend primordial stones so easily. Let's take a look at Pavilion number 9. There seems to be a patrol envoy of the Eastern Sea inside. He should have some background. Master Nine Firmaments' mind was clearly not on the auction. His eyes were still closed. A cultivator from Pavilion number 8 took out 2,000 demon, sacred realm primordial treasures. Although they were relatively rare, they were used by demons. Confucian and Taoist cultivators had no use for them. No one responded at all. Then, he took out a Confucian cultivation technique. Fortunately, the Confucian cultivator from Pavilion number 4 was interested in this item. However, it only took a moment for him to bid for it. No third party participated. Just as Xiao Hua was looking forward to it, it was finally their Pavilion number 9's turn. As Yin Sheng looked towards his side, Xiaohua smiled and said to Old Monster Jifeng, Old Monster Jifeng, you are our main character. You should bid first. Let us see what you've got. This old man's goal is also the last treasure. There is nothing else to bid for. Old Monster Jifeng said firmly. Then, he looked towards Ao Shui. Perhaps Brother Ao has something to bid for? And Ao Shui nodded and said loudly, this old man does have something to ask of Master Nine Firmaments. I need your help. Fellow immortal, please speak. Master Nine Firmament's voice sounded. Just now, a fellow immortal mentioned Longevity Town. Also, another fellow immortal mentioned Thousand Demon, Sacred Realms, Songqiong Mountain. This old man actually also wants to ask about something. However, this information is from Longevity Town in the hidden immortal continent, not Thousand Demon Sacred Realm. Would Master Nine Firmaments be willing to listen? Ao Shui said lightly. When Xiaohua heard this, he almost sucked in a breath of cold air. He was the main character of the immortal town and knew everything that happened there. He didn't expect that the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace would be interested in the immortal town. Moreover, from Ao Shui's words, he didn't come up with this idea on the spur of the moment. Instead, he had planned this a long time ago. However, with Old Monster Jifeng's invitation, Ao Shui had the chance to come in and ask. Longevity Town. Master Nine Firmaments thought for a moment, then said, Fellow immortal, tell us first. Perhaps this old man, and even the fellow immortals here can help. Ao Shui stood up and said, it's said that a Buddhist monk went out of Longevity Town and obtained Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva's Buddha fruit. This old man doesn't want to know who this person is. What this old man wants to know is, who wants to flood Longevity Town and what is their goal? After they were defeated by the Buddhist monk, where did they go? If any fellow immortal can tell this old man has a treasure to thank you. As for the primordial stones, fellow immortals and venerable master don't need to worry. I'll definitely satisfy you. This, Master Nine Firmaments looked like he was stalling for time. He asked in detail, this old man already said that fellow immortals seems to be looking for a better, and I won't hide it from fellow immortals. This old man just went to Zhai Xing Lu's auction. Ao Shui nodded and said, although this old man went to the auction for another matter, because I suddenly received a search request, I told Zhai Xing Lu about it after the auction. They also agreed to help. Oh, of course, no matter which fellow immortal finds it, this old man will fulfill his promise regardless of the order. Fellow immortal, the cultivator who had just talked about Longevity Town said, according to what this old man knows, other than the Buddhist monk, there's also a Confucian academy. However, the academy didn't send any experts, so it was overshadowed by the Buddhist monk. Right now, there isn't any detailed information. It's all hearsay. As for the water clan that flooded Longevity Town, no one knows about it. Damn it, we're in big trouble. Xiaohua cried bitterly in his heart. He didn't think that things would become so big. Venerable Master, what do you think? Ao Shui looked at the stone wall. This old man will send people to investigate, but the specific results might not be satisfactory to fellow immortal. Master Nine Firmaments said clearly, this one knows some specific details. At this moment, Xiaohua opened his mouth. There was nothing for him to hide in Longevity Town. His name, Xiaojian's name, and so on could be found out if someone were to investigate. Now, it was only because the Cloud Forest Temple and the Chongyun sect were competing for merits, each of them exaggerating his merits to the extreme. Perhaps no one would notice him, but if someone were to investigate, they would be able to find out. He could not hide. Rather than being found out in the future, it was better to stand up now. And not only would he feel magnanimous, but more importantly, wouldn't he be able to obtain the treasures of the Dragon Palace? -11. Chapter 33:15. Oh, it's you? Others couldn't see Xiaohua's appearance, but Ao Shui's eyes flashed with a strange light. He looked at Xiaohua strangely, as if he didn't believe him at all. That's right, it's me. Xiaohua smiled bitterly and said while rubbing his nose, I came here from Longevity Town's Rivertide Temple. When Liao River's water clan flooded Longevity Town, I was already in Longevity Town. Moreover, with the water clan, There were some fights. I also didn't know. Fellow immortal actually went through so much trouble for this matter. What? Ao Shui frowned. I only know about Chongyun sect and Yunlin Temple. I didn't hear about, but I know about Shaojin Temple and Longevity Academy. I also know why Liao River's water clan flooded Longevity Town. Xiaohua said very naturally, moreover, if I don't say it now, what would fellow immortal think? Ao Shui nodded slightly and glanced outside the pavilion. He originally wanted to take out Dragon Palace's origin tool to seal this place, but he had the same idea as Xiaohua. At this moment, he couldn't hide it for long, so he simply smiled and said, Venerable Nine Firmaments, it seems like I don't need to find Venerable Nine Firmaments for help. However, if Venerable Nine Firmaments is interested, you can listen. Hehe, no need. Venerable Nine Firmaments smiled. This is your secret. I'm not interested. You can send me a message as much as you want. Oh, fellow immortals don't need to be too anxious. Since you're doing business here, you can tell me everything in detail. Don't have any other disputes after leaving this place. Thank you, Venerable Nine Firmaments. Ao Shui heard and finally relaxed. He glanced at Old Monster Jifeng and Princess Bai Hua and smiled. Since it's like this, I'll send a message to Xiaohua. Please don't blame me. It doesn't matter. Old Monster Jifeng rolled his eyes a few times. This is Brother Ao's private matter. However, Brother Ao should hurry up. Long delays may cause trouble. Don't delay the matter we're discussing. All right, I understand. I know what to do. When Ao Shui heard this, he ignored Princess Bai Hua and sent a voice transmission. Xiaohua, tell me the ins and outs of this matter. Xiaohua smiled and also transmitted his voice. Fellow immortal Ao, you seem to have forgotten your promise. Things like information, as long as it's leaked out, it won't be worth any source stones. This Xiao feels that it's better for us to play the role of a gentleman first. Tell me, how many primeval stones do you want? Or what treasures do you want? Ao Shui was not surprised because Xiaohua seemed to be a miser. It would be strange if Xiaohua did not ask for primordial stones. Xiaohua thought for a moment and probed. Hehe, when it comes to spirit stones, I don't have many, but I don't have many either. Even if fellow Taoist Ao gives me a little more, it would be meaningless. Looks like you want the treasure? It doesn't matter. There are countless treasures in the treasury of the East Sea Dragon Palace. As long as you can tell me the whereabouts of the Water Tribe, you can choose any treasure you want. Ao Shui said with a smile. Xiaohua's face revealed envy. Soon after, he said regretfully, what a pity. It is precisely because I don't know where the Liao River's Water Tribe went that I didn't dare to ask fellow immortal Ao for any treasures. I also know that it is impossible for you to provide the whereabouts of the Water Tribe. Ao Shui said indifferently. If you know, my East Sea Dragon Palace will naturally know. Tell me, what do you want? East Sea Dragon Palace's high-level water escape technique? Xiaohua said his purpose after a slight hesitation. That's right. The person in front of him is the East Sea Dragon Palace's inspector. If I don't kill him, who will I kill? Unfortunately, Ao Shui naturally shook his head. Impossible. My East Sea Dragon Palace's water escape technique can only be practiced by the subordinates of the East Sea Dragon Palace. I can't give it to you. How about this? Xiaohua bit his lips and said, I know that the water escape technique of the Four Seas Dragon Palace is the best and I have always admired it. Since I can't give you the water escape technique of the East Sea Dragon Palace, I can only ask for the next best thing. Xiaohua, what do you want the water escape technique for? Ao Shui stared at Xiaohua for a long time and asked very strangely, I remember that someone bought a Dao sect's middle-level water escape technique at the Star Picking Towers auction. If there is no accident, it should be you. What do you want so many water escape techniques for? Don't tell me you want to switch to the water escape technique? Hehe, sorry. Immortal friend Ao, this is my own secret. There is no need for immortal friend to worry about it. Tell me, can you give me another high-level water escape technique that is not from the East Sea Dragon Palace? Xiaohua laughed mischievously and did not answer. Ao Shui looked at Xiaohua, trying to see if there was something fishy in his eyes. He really could not understand why Xiaohua insisted on a high-level water escape technique. Either the water escape technique of the star-picking tower cannot be practiced, or this guy has some other ulterior motive. Ao Shuai muttered very naturally. This high-level water escape technique definitely cannot be given to him. Otherwise, my dragon palace will be in danger. Xiaohua. Ao Shuai thought for a while, then shook his head and said, if you can tell me the whereabouts of the Liao River's water tribe, I can naturally give you the other high-level water escape techniques of the water tribe. Unfortunately, you can't say it and can only tell me the specific situation. Therefore, I cannot agree to your request. AI, then let's forget about it. Xiaohua also sighed. Immortal friend Ao, you should spend more primeval stones and treasures to find out some plausible truths. I don't want to make a deal with immortal friend. Don't worry, Xiaohua. I cannot give you the high-level water escape technique. I can still give you other techniques. Why don't you tell me first? Seeing Xiaohua retreat in order to advance, Ao Shuai did not panic. He had done this kind of thing many times. How could he not know how to deal with it? I am not too interested in other techniques. Xiaohua saw that Ao Shuai had already fallen into his trap. It was the time for him to loosen the reins in order to grasp them better. Thus, he said regretfully, you also know that I am a Dao sect cultivator. The techniques I use are different from other cultivators. I think we should just forget about it. Could it be that you only want the high-level water escape technique? Ao Shuai frowned. He obviously did not want to let go of this opportunity. He thought for a while and said, other escape techniques are not okay? Unless you have a fire escape technique? Xiaohua said with a bitter smile. Nonsense. I do have a fire escape technique, but I can't bring it with me. Ao Shuai finally laid his cards on the table. I happen to have 2 jade slips here. One is a golden core technique, and the other is a very rare mid-level metal escape technique. If you want, you can pick one of them. If you don't like both of them, then I can't do anything. Xiaohua's eyes lit up. He said curiously, immortal friend Ao actually has my Dao sect's jade slips? And you even know that it is a golden core technique? Ao Shuai sneered. My East Sea Dragon Palace has countless treasures. What is this jade slips? I might not be able to see what is inside, but there are many capable people in my Dragon Palace. Any cultivator with divine sense can see it. What is so difficult about this? This is troublesome. Xiaohua had a difficult expression. He said with a bitter smile, I have my own golden core technique. As for the metal escape technique, it is really not suitable for me. Can I forget it? I will use the metal escape technique. It is better than nothing. Seeing Xiaohua in a difficult position, Ao Shuai was very pleased. He knew that Xiaohua definitely had a golden core technique. Otherwise, he would not have given it to Duanmu Qing. The metal escape technique was very rare. Ordinary people would not be able to use it. Ao Shuai himself felt that this jade slip was trash. Now, he could use this jade slip to brush off Xiaohua. When Ao Shuai heard that Xiaohua had indeed chosen the useless mid-level metal escape technique, he did not hesitate to wave his hand. An old jade slip was taken out from his bosom. He threw it in front of Xiaohua and said with a smile, as you wish. Ao Shuai felt that Xiaohua's mood was of little value. But how could he know that Xiaohua's heart was already blooming with flowers? Not to mention the metal escape technique, even the other 5-element escape techniques, as long as they were mid-grade cultivation methods, he would like them. However, Xiaohua still had a bitter expression. He held the jade slip and shook his head slightly. He even said, sigh, it is not worth it. It is not worth it. This thing, forget it. After all, it is still a technique of my Dao sect. It is better to leave it with me than in the Dragon Palace. Let me find a fated person for it. Xiaohua, quickly say it. Old monster Zhifeng saw the jade slip fly out. He knew that the two of them had just agreed on the price. He could not help but urge anxiously. He knew that if Xiaohua did not say it, the deal would not be over. He would not be able to bid for the thing that he was looking forward to. Haste makes waste. Old monster Zhifeng. Xiaohua stored the jade slip into his spatial ring and said to old monster Zhifeng, you. Old monster Zhifeng was somewhat embarrassed and angry. However, he glanced at Ao Shuai and turned his head to look outside the pavilion. Yin Shang was looking in his direction. He should also be waiting for Xiaohua's explanation. Soon after, Xiao Hua told him everything that he had seen and heard in Longevity Town. He did not hide anything. He even told him about how Lu Yi picked up Xiao Yun by the river. Finally, he said, "That is how it is. I saw that Lu Yi's background was pitiful, so I took him in as a servant. If fellow immortal wants to ask more, there is no harm in following me to Seven Suns Temple after the auction. However, to be honest, he is just an ordinary person. He does not know Xiao Yun's background at all. He has also never seen those water clan of Liao River." Ao Shuai's two dragon eyes opened wide. A strange expression flashed across his eyes. After thinking for a while, he confirmed, "Xiao Hua, are you sure? It is the two words paradise? And the one you fought with was a midget riding a seahorse?" Xiao Hua smiled and shook his head. "Those two words were told to me by a disciple of Chongyun's sect. I am not sure. As for the midget, I am sure. Moreover, didn't I already describe the appearance of the midget and Xiao Yun in detail to fellow immortal? As for the whereabouts of those water clan, and even the so-called high monk of the Buddhist sect, I was unconscious at that time and did not know. However, when I woke up, I heard from the people of Chongyun's sect and Yunlin Temple that they did not know the whereabouts of the water clan. Moreover, that high monk of the Buddhist sect did not really attain the Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva's Buddha fruit. -11. Chapter 33:16. Ao Shuai nods his head. Fellow immortal Zhao's explanation is very detailed. Although you didn't say the whereabouts of those water tribe people, it has already far exceeded my expectations. Actually, those water tribe people in Liao River have countless methods to hide their whereabouts. How could you humans find them? Even if you weren't unconscious, you wouldn't know where they went. Moreover, even you couldn't tell Xiao Yun's real body, that Louis wouldn't know either. It would be pointless for me to ask. Forget it, I didn't come to this auction in vain." After saying that, Ao Shuai raises his voice, "Venerable Nine Heavens, our transaction is finished. We can bid for the last treasure." "Good," Venerable Nine Heavens' voice is heard. "I'm also very happy to see fellow Immortal Zhao's harvest. Yin Sheng, prepare to bid." Wait, before Yin Sheng can speak, Xiao Hua hastily interrupts Venerable Nine Heavens. "Oh, fellow Immortal Xiao, what else do you want?" Venerable Nine Heavens is somewhat astonished. Could it be that the bidding just now was a bit wrong? No, Xiao Hua says with a smile. The bidding just now was for fellow Immortal Xiao. I don't seem to have made a request for bidding. Is Venerable Nine Heavens right? Haha, that's right. I was careless. Venerable Nine Heavens laughs loudly. The bidding just now was a bit strange. It was carried out in your number 9 pavilion. It gave me an illusion that all the bidding was finished. No matter, fellow Immortal Xiao can ask for anything. Or if there's anything precious that you want to bid for, you can also take it out. Many thanks, Venerable Nine Heavens. Xiao Hua cups his hands and says, I presume Venerable Nine Heavens already knows that I'm a Dao sect cultivator. Now that the Dao sect on Hidden Immortal Continent is declining, my cultivation is also very difficult. Today, I came to see Venerable Nine Heavens because I want to see if Venerable Nine Heavens has a basic Dao sect cultivation method. Dao sect's basic cultivation method? Venerable Nine Heavens is clearly stunned. He bitterly smiles and says, Fellow Immortal Xiao, you are making things difficult for me. I don't dare to say that the things I have here are all precious, but at least they are profitable. Dao sect's items are simply of little value. In my early years, I also once handled high-level Dao sect spells, but those things almost fell into my hands. After that, I finally found an opportunity to make a move. After that, this old man no longer paid attention to the Dao sect's cultivation techniques. When Xiao Hua heard that, he knew that what Master Nine Heavens said was true. His main purpose in coming to the auction this time was to obtain a basic cultivation technique. He hadn't expected that he would obtain something else instead of a cultivation technique. Xiao Hua sighed bitterly in his heart. Losing on the swings, gaining on the swings. Master Nine Firmaments asked, Does anyone have a Taoist cultivation technique? I'm sure this fellow immortal from Pavilion number 9 will pay a high price. It was a pity that even after Venerable Nine Heavens spoke for a long time, no one spoke. Presumably, These people did not have the cultivation technique that Xiaohua wanted. Forget it, Xiaohua said. I've gained a lot this time. So it's fine even if I don't have this basic cultivation technique. I don't have any other requests. Venerable Master Nine Firmament stood up from the small space and prepared to enter the auction. All right, since fellow Taoist from Pavilion 9 has no other requests, we will bid for the last precious item. At this moment, the cultivator named Qingyu said in a low voice, 9 heavens, today's effort will be in vain. I'm afraid they won't come. However, don't be careless. Pavilion 7 and Pavilion 9 are old demons from the Sage Domain. Don't let them see any flaws, especially Pavilion 9 and the East Sea Dragon Palace's inspector. We don't want to go for wool and come home shorn, offending the East Sea Dragon Palace for no reason. And this old man has his own plans. Don't worry. Venerable 9 Heavens didn't stop walking. He said casually, when you release the light beast cub, control it a little and release some of its aura. I don't believe that the light beast cub has been here for several years, and that light beast didn't notice it. That light beast not only has tyrannical strength, its intuition is also sharp. It never sets foot in a dangerous place. Qingyu shook his head and said, if we were in the Thousand Demons' sacred domain, we definitely wouldn't be able to capture it. It's only in the hidden immortal continent that we have a chance. If we use the light beast cub to lure them, they definitely wouldn't come. We can only use the auction as a disguise to make them lower their guard. Unfortunately, the auction has been held several times, but we still haven't been able to lure them out. Could it be that they have already returned to the Thousand Demons' sacred domain? Venerable 9 Heavens had already walked to the front of the stone wall. Hearing this, he stopped and turned his head, saying, this old man doesn't know why the light beast brought its cub out of the Thousand Demons' sacred domain. I also don't know why it left the cub and disappeared. What this old man knows is that this light beast cub is of no use to us. Only by capturing the light beast can we have a chance to obtain the Sage King's forgiveness and return to the Thousand Demons' sacred domain. This is our only chance. After saying this, Venerable 9 Heavens raised his leg and disappeared into the stone wall. Alas, Qingyu sighed. His previous boldness and pride had long disappeared. Dejection and homesickness seemed to have instantly filled his eyebrows. Then, with a light pung sound, Qingyu's clothes burst open. Qingyu's entire body turned into a mass of black gas among the flowers. With a series of hissing sounds, the black gas rushed into the walls of the space and disappeared. At the same time, the entire space rapidly trembled a few times, then calmed down. Master 9 Firmament's back was still straight in the resplendent auction hall. His previous dejection and loneliness had been swept away. He slightly raised his hand and saluted to the surroundings, saying, fellow immortals, many thanks for your support. After several rounds of auction, the most exciting moment of the night has finally arrived. This old man will take out the last treasure of this auction. Of course, other than the VIPs in the 7th, 8th, and 9th pavilions, the other VIPs probably still don't know what this treasure is, right? Hee, fellow immortal 9 Heavens. A voice from the 4th pavilion laughed heartily. Many thanks for your arrangement this time. This old man also saw clearly just now. This old man is here to bid for the second treasure. As for the third treasure, this old man really doesn't know. But this old man also doesn't care too much about it. Now that it's getting late, let's hurry up and bid for it. Yes, yes, Venerable 9 Heavens said with a smile. This old man just came up, but I still have to explain to the fellow immortals in front of me. This third treasure is a living thing, and it's very rare. All the origin arrays, defensive arrays, and fire arrays can't seal this thing's aura. So just now, fellow immortal Qingyu and I joined hands to set up a defensive origin array to prevent the aura from leaking out. That's why I let Yin Sheng preside over this auction. This third treasure can only be auctioned by this old man personally. Previously, I didn't mean to be slow. Haha, no matter, no matter. The people in the pavilions laughed. We'll listen to fellow immortal 9 Heavens arrangement. Many thanks for your understanding, fellow immortals. Venerable 9 Heavens cupped his hands once more, then he raised his hand and took out a simple bronze bracelet from his sleeve. Oh? Xiaohua's eyes lit up. This was the storage bracelet he saw in the Western Ocean and Guihe Sea. It was also the yin-yang bracelet often mentioned in the hidden immortal continent. Master Nine Firmaments held the yin and yang bracelet in his hand. Wisps of pure white light seeped out of the bracelet without any restraint. Wisps of light rushed into the air, one after another. Moreover, this light didn't scatter and directly pierced the space around the auction. Even the light in the air was pierced. When the white light pierced the stone wall, a faint black mist appeared. The white light was absorbed by the black mist and gradually disappeared. Light beast. A shocked voice almost uncontrollably came from a cultivator's throat. At the same time, a few ecstatic voices rushed out. That's right, it's the light beast. Without light, there is no 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 light. Fellow immortals, you are all very knowledgeable. It is the light beast. Venerable Nine Heavens didn't hide anything at this time. With a wave of his hand, 9 strange black things flew out from his sleeve and landed around the yin-yang bracelet. Then, he opened his mouth and with a j sound, 9 blood-red lights shot out from his mouth and hit the 9 strange things. Buzz. The 9 strange things immediately let out a deafening sound and quickly expanded. In a moment, they turned into 9 stone tablets. Xiao Hua could clearly see that the 9 stone tablets were pitch black and had inexplicable runes on their surface. They weren't Taoist runes, nor were they Buddhist Sanskrit runes. They weren't Confucian inscriptions, but rather similar to the green seal runes of the soul cultivators. However, these runes didn't emit the soul-sucking green luster of the soul cultivators. Instead, they emitted a jet-black, solemn, vast, and majestic aura. What was special was that there were 9 different types of demons on the 9 stone tablets. All of them were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, looking extremely ferocious. The murderous and tyrannical aura rushed out from the 9 demons. Not only did it cover the entire auction area, it also completely sealed the storage ring. The white light that had seeped out from the yin-yang bracelet earlier couldn't leave. It could only slowly swim within 3 feet of the bracelet and gradually gather into the white light. Xiao Hua glanced at the 9 monsters on the stone tablets and understood their origins. As the saying goes, a dragon has 9 sons, and each of them is different. These 9 monsters were Qionyou, Yazi, Chaofeng, Pulao, Bayan, Fuan, and Qiwan. Xiao Hua couldn't help but look at Ao Shuai. Ao Shuai seemed to know that the yin-yang bracelet belonged to the light beast, so his expression didn't change. However, when Venerable Nine Heavens threw out the 9 stone tablets, his expression changed and he blurted out, 9 dragon tablets. Venerable Nine Heavens, where did you get the 9 dragon tablets? -11. Chapter 33:17. Hehe, my fellow immortal, don't worry. Master Nine Heavens looked at Ao Shuai and said with a smile, I know that the 9 dragon steels were lost by the Dragon Palace in the early years. However, I have been using it to suppress the aura of the light beast, so I didn't have the time or the opportunity to inform the Dragon Palace. When this is over, I won't use the steels anymore. I will inform the Dragon Palace and ask the Dragon Palace to take it back. If you have a relationship with the Dragon Palace, please tell me. I will be very grateful. Ao Shuai's expression returned to normal. He nodded and said, Then I will thank you on behalf of the Dragon Palace. Hehe, you're welcome. Master Nine Heavens said with a smile, A gentleman doesn't take what others like. I understand that. Okay. Master Nine Heavens waved his sleeve again. Several black lights rushed into the steels. The aura of the 9 steels surged and sealed the heaven and earth bracelet completely. Master Nine Heavens said with a smile, Everyone, please take a look. Master Nine Heavens pointed with his hand. Whoosh! Everyone felt a dazzling light in front of them. It was as if a bright silver moon had risen from the heaven and earth bracelet. They couldn't help but close their eyes. Hiss! Xiao Hua also closes his eyes and inhales a mouthful of cold air. This radiant beast, the beast lives up to its name. Although the universe bracelet is already surrounded by the 9 steels, the radiant beast's brilliance still pierces out uncontrollably. It seems that Master Nine Heaven's solemn attitude was not unreasonable. Seal, Guru Jiao Shao shouted. 9 dark clouds flew out of the 9 dragon tablets. Each cloud was different, but when they flew in front of the pure white light, they covered it completely. Not a single bit of light could be seen. Fellow immortals, the 9-child dragon steel is able to seal the aura of the light beasts. As for the light, it's the innate ability of the light beasts, and I can't completely block it. Master Nine Heavens said loudly, however, you should be able to see it clearly now. This is the 3rd treasure that I bid for today, the baby of the light beast. It's just the baby of the light beast, but it's so powerful? What about adult light beasts? When Xiao Hua heard this, before he even opened his eyes, he already felt a wave of shock in his heart. This 1,000 demons sacred realm demon is really too powerful. Old monster Zhifeng is indeed qualified to be arrogant. Sure enough, not only was Xiao Hua surprised, there were also people in the other pavilions who cried out. Obviously, they were the same as Xiao Hua. They had never seen a light beast before, and they didn't know that a light beast's cub was so powerful. However, when Xiao Hua clearly saw the appearance of the radiant beast cub within the white, he could no longer pretend to be calm as he sat on the stone bench. He could no longer hide his astonishment in his heart. He cried out in alarm, "Huan Huan." He immediately stood up from the stone bench and clenched his fists as he looked at the scene. At this moment, that dazzling brilliance had already been covered by the dark clouds. Xiao Hua could already clearly see the light beast cub within the brilliance. What he saw made him cry out in alarm. He saw that this cub's head was a dragon's head, its body was a cheelant's body, its tail was a lion's tail, and its 4 hooves were cow's hooves. Moreover, under the cub's hooves, there were 4 different clouds floating in the air. They were respectively a golden scepter, a silver scepter, a dragon pearl, and a gold ingot. In fact, although it was called a cub, it was already the size of an ordinary pony. It didn't have the appearance of the lightning beast cub that Xiao Hua had seen before. This cub was rather irritable within the brilliance. It rushed left and right as if it wanted to fly out of the light. Unfortunately, the dark clouds surrounding the light were still like an iron wall that firmly blocked it. This cub could only move within a space of about 10 feet. It couldn't even move half an inch if it wanted to. That's not right. When Xiao Hua squinted his eyes and saw clearly, he frowned again. This isn't Huan Huan. It's completely different from Huan Huan. Although this light beast is also an odd beast, it's different from the dragon, cheelan, lion, and cow. Huan Huan's head and face are like a horse's, its horns are like a deer's, its neck is like a camel's, and its tail is like a donkey's. Huan Huan looks very docile, but this light beast looks wild and unruly. It's not easy to get along with it. The stimulation of the light beast's appearance made Xiao Hua think of many things about Huan Huan. It made Xiao Hua feel a surge of warmth in his heart. Fellow immortals, Master Nine Firmaments waved his hand and said with a smile, "This is the light beast that we often talk about. Master Nine Firmaments." A voice from the 7th pavilion was calm and filled with pleasant surprise. If this old man didn't see it with his own eyes, I really wouldn't dare to believe it. What method did you use to capture this light beast? Hee, this old man also doesn't dare to believe it. Master Nine Firmaments said with a smile, "This light beast cub was picked up by this old man. How is that possible?" That person said anxiously. Who doesn't know how powerful the light beast is? Even if it's a cub, Master Nine Firmaments, it's not that this old man underestimated you, but it shouldn't be that easy for you to subdue it, right? If this old man hadn't met this light beast cub, I would have chosen to believe it too, Master Nine Firmaments said proudly. But when this old man easily captured this light beast cub, I realized that we were all wrong. Perhaps the demons in the 1,000 demon sacred realm who have never seen a light beast cub were all wrong. At this point, Master Nine Firmaments didn't hide his identity as a demon anymore. Master, quickly tell us, what's going on? That person was very curious. Not to mention the others, even Xiao Hua stood there curiously. He pricked up his ears and quietly listened to Master Nine Firmaments' explanation. Master Nine Firmaments pointed at the light beast cub and said with a smile, This thing looks very arrogant. Even the 9 Suns dragon steel couldn't subdue it. But in reality, it doesn't have any power. It's almost all instincts. In particular, this old man will tell you the secret of this light beast. This cub's body is completely filled with the crystallization of the world's origin energy. After this old man captured it, I've already examined it. Inside this cub's body, every strand of muscle is solidified with many crystals, and these crystals contain extremely terrifying amounts of the world's origin energy. Perhaps, these essence energy crystals were naturally formed by this light beast cub and have yet to be absorbed by this light beast cub. Once the light beast cub absorbs them, it will grow up and we will no longer be its match. Hearing this, Xiaohua's eyes lit up. Wasn't this light beast cub's situation exactly the same as his? The earth crystal Yao milk inside his body had blocked his meridians and body and limited his power. Didn't this mean that he was in the same situation as this baby light beast? So that's how it is. Hearing this, the person in the pavilion also came to a realization. He clapped his hands and shouted, "In that case, Master 9 Firmaments, why don't you hurry up and bid? After this old man bids for this light beast cub, I'll refine its soul and bloodline. This body, it'll be of great use." Hearing this, Xiaohua was shocked. He raised his eyes to look at old monster Zhifeng and Ao Shuai. The two of them also stood up and looked at the light beast cub. The greed in their eyes was naked. "Old monster Zhifeng," Xiaohua said, "you don't want this light beast cub to be your mount?" "Ha ha ha." Old monster Zhifeng laughed loudly and said with great interest, "We're all monsters. We travel with the clouds and ride with the wind. Why would we need a mount? Do you think that we monsters are the same as you humans?" "Then you," Xiaohua said with a smile, "bid for the heavenly horse and the light beast cub to refine their bloodline and soul?" "Of course." Old monster Zhifeng nodded. He glanced at Ao Shuai cautiously and said, "Don't you humans often have a saying, kings, nobles, generals, and ministers all have guts?" This old man was born with a low-level monster body, different from a mortal Ao. "If I want to cultivate further, I must borrow the bloodline of high-level monsters." We're all monsters. Why does the light beast have such terrifying power when it's born? And this old man has to suffer a lot of humiliation? Now there's such a good opportunity. This light beast is still a cub, and its bloodline is still very fresh. It hasn't obtained my inheritance yet, and is suitable for refining. How can this old man give it up? As for its soul, if it's possible, this old man is naturally willing to refine it. Unfortunately, although the light beast's soul is only a cub, it's not something this old man's monster body can contain. This old man only hopes to obtain the light beast's bloodline. When he spoke up to hear, the old demon Zhifeng seemed to be lost in thought as he stared at Xiaohua, and he probed. "Xiaohua, I won't conceal it from you. I invited you over because I wanted to rely on the strength of your demon pet to subdue the infant of the Radiance beast, bloodline, and soul. I've already discussed it with fellow Taoist Ao, and the final shell of the Radiance beast is exactly suitable for you. According to this old man's knowledge, your Tao sect seems to have a secret technique for possession. When your body is injured, you can possess the light beast's body. Similarly, you can also have your heavenly horse possess the light beast's body. No matter what, it will only be beneficial to you. Previously, this old man didn't tell you clearly because I really wasn't sure. Without seeing the light beast, this old man didn't dare to be sure. But now, it seems that there are at least 3 families bidding for the light beast cub. If the 3 of us join hands, there's a possibility of winning. Of course, Xiaohua, you can rest assured. You don't have to pay any more origin stones. When the time comes, you only need to listen to this old man's command and summon your monster pet. What do you think?" Xiaohua listened to these people. No, these monsters' words and understood their goal long ago. In their eyes, this was something that couldn't be more normal. It was also something that Xiaohua deeply detested. If it was before because this light beast cub looked a bit like Huan, perhaps Xiaohua would have some compassion. Perhaps after seeing the light beast cub's current state of being trapped, Xiaohua would have a similar feeling. But now, Xiaohua had already made a decision in his heart. He also wanted to participate in the bidding. No matter what price he had to pay, he had to obtain this light beast cub. -11. Chapter 33:18. I don't think so. Xiao Hua indifferently replies, I am a human. I have humanity in my heart and act in accordance with human ethics. I can't do things like taking someone's body and soul. Hee. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Don't think that you can show off in front of me just because you have a demon pet. Don't know what your surname is? What kind of humanity do you have with this old man? Old monster Zhifeng sneers and glances at Ao Shuai, who is also disdainful. He looks at the auction house and no longer pays attention to Xiao Hua. It seems that Xiao Hua's rejection is also within his expectations. In the auction house, Venerable Nine Firmaments says with a smile, Fellow immortals, don't be anxious. This old man took out this light beast cub because this old man has no use for it. Fellow immortal Qing, you also has no use for it, and my disciples also don't have the fortune to enjoy it. That's why I invited fellow immortals here. As for which fellow immortal has this fortune, this old man still doesn't know. However, I am sure that among the fellow immortals here, one of you will definitely be able to take this light beast cub into your pocket and bring it out of the auction. Venerable Nine Firmaments. A slightly hoarse voice comes out from the first four pavilions and asks with confusion, This old woman has a question that I don't understand. I don't know if I can ask. Fellow immortal, please speak. Venerable Nine Firmaments raises his hand and says with a smile, This fellow immortal shouldn't have been invited by this old man to participate in the auction, right? What's the problem? This old woman naturally doesn't know that a light beast will appear in today's auction. That old woman replies indifferently, What this old woman doesn't understand is that whether it is the thunderclap battleship or the shape-shifting scarf, they are all rare treasures in the hidden immortal continent. These treasures can still be valued with primeval stones. If Venerable Nine Firmaments lacks primeval stones, you can use these treasures to exchange for primeval stones. However, this light beast cub in front of me, TSK, this is the first time this old woman has seen it. It gives this old woman the impression that it is a blessing between heaven and earth. It is inauspicious to kill. This kind of rare blessing is simply not something that can be valued with primeval stones. Of course, Venerable Nine Firmaments also said that he has no use for it. Fellow immortal Qing, you also has no use for it, and his disciples even more so. But even so, logically speaking, it's impossible to exchange it for origin stones, right? Hee. Fellow immortal must be a Confucian cultivator from the hidden immortal continent. Master Nine Firmaments didn't get angry. Instead, he sneered. How do you know what the demons of the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm are thinking? Whether it is the Thunderbolt warship, the shape-shifting scarf, or even the Radiant Beast, they are all primordial stones in our eyes. Without origin stones, it's impossible for this old man to obtain what he wants. What 10,000-year-old spiritual herb? What transformation golden core? Which one of them wasn't valued with primordial stones? Didn't a fellow immortal use human lives to appraise it? Since human lives can be exchanged with primeval stones, why can't the baby of a light beast? That's right. Master Nine Firmaments, hurry up. This old man can't wait any longer. The demon cultivator roared and stopped the old woman from asking again. Master Nine Firmaments nodded and said, All right, let the final auction begin. According to the rules, fellow immortals can transmit their valuations to this old man. This old man will trade with whoever has the highest valuation. Wait. The hoarse old woman shouted again. Damn it, do you want to die? The demon cultivator was furious and shouted, If you say another word, this old man will eat you. Eat me? The old woman sneered. This old woman's bones are hard and her flesh is dry. I'm afraid you won't like it. This old woman only wants to let you eat the meat of this light beast. This time, Master Nine Firmaments really frowned and asked with displeasure, Fellow immortal, what else do you want to say? The old woman smiled. The first and second auctions were all done through voice transmission. This old woman feels that this third auction should be more lively. Just like the auction of the Buddhist sect's secret technique, How about an open battle? Good. This old man likes it. The demon cultivator clapped and said, "This old man doesn't know how much primordial stones are suitable just by voice transmission. Also, this old man doesn't know who bought it. This is so frustrating." Old Monster Jifeng looked at Ao Shuai and hurriedly shouted, "That's right. We also feel that it's better to bid." Humph. Master Nine Firmament's face turned cold and he said indifferently, "This is the rule this old man set. This old woman knows that this is the rule set by Master Nine Firmaments. This old woman also believes in Master Nine Firmaments and Master Clear Rain's reputation." The old woman laughed shrilly like an owl and suddenly rushed out of the pavilion. She stood not far from Master Nine Firmaments, but this old woman personally experienced a strange thing. "I want to ask Master Nine Firmaments to explain it." "What are you doing?" Master Nine Firmaments was furious. "How can you rush out of the pavilion? This old man is going to kick you out." Xiaohua coldly looked at the auction house. The old woman held a dragon-headed walking stick in her hand and wore a black robe. Her sharp mouth, monkey cheeks, and bitter chrysanthemum-like face didn't have any muscles. Even her eyebrows were so light that they were almost indiscernible. "Nine Firmaments, look at who this old woman is." The old woman saw that Master Nine Firmaments was angry, but she didn't seem to be afraid. She opened her mouth. Woo! An orange Yaoqi rushed out and fell around the old woman like a waterfall. Boom! The old woman's pitch-black clothes exploded like rags, and a 3-meter-tall tiger demon appeared in front of Master Nine Firmaments. "You!" Master Nine Firmament's face changed when he saw the tiger demon. He coldly laughed and said, "Inhu, you dare to use a transformation technique in front of this old man? What is the meaning of this?" "Ha ha ha! Nine Firmaments, you old bastard!" Inhu opened his mouth wide and spat out orange demon chi. His entire body shimmered with the luster of a tiger's skin. "I'm not going to sabotage you." This old man was just following a fellow immortal to the bronze pillar state to play. "I wanted to find some tasty food. However, that fellow immortal was invited to your auction by someone else, so this old man decided to come here on the spur of the moment. Of course, this old man also knew that this auction of yours only allowed one person to participate, so I changed my mind. However, this old man didn't expect." "Inhu," Master Nine Firmament said calmly, "don't you think you're talking too much?" This old man didn't want to talk too much, but you forced me to. Inhu wasn't afraid of Master Nine Firmaments at all. He stared straight at him and said, "If this old man hadn't decided to come here on a whim, I wouldn't have thought that the baby light beast that was bought by someone last year would appear in your auction again this year." "Ah, fellow immortal Inhu." Master Nine Firmaments smiled bitterly. "This old man knows that you misunderstood. That's why you wanted to use this to threaten me. Fine. This old man will explain it to you all." Master Nine Firmaments pointed at the baby light beast suppressed under the 9-dragon steel and said, "This beast was indeed auctioned last year. Fellow immortal who also participated, but it was bought by another fellow immortal that day. As for that fellow immortal's name, forgive this old man for not being able to reveal it. However, although this light beast is just a baby, it was born with divine abilities. Ordinary methods and methods of refining it won't work, and it will even backfire. That fellow immortal took the baby light beast and the 9-dragon steel away, but 100 days later, he came looking for this old man again. I won't hide it from you all. At that time, this fellow immortal was on the verge of death. He had been backfired by the light beast's power of light. This fellow immortal begged fellow immortal Qing, you and I to take back the baby light beast. He also said that he only wanted 70% of the primeval stones he had bought that day. Actually, fellow immortal Qing, you and I didn't want to agree at all. We also felt that we couldn't refine the blood of the light beast, so we put it up for auction. Who would want this hot potato now? However, that fellow immortal was truly pitiful. He couldn't even activate the 9-dragon steel, so how could he possibly refine the light beast? Thus, this old man discussed with fellow immortal Qingyu, and we had no choice but to hold another auction. Furthermore, before this auction, this old man made it clear to these 3 fellow immortals that they must act according to their abilities. If they aren't confident in refining the light beast, then don't bid. This old man doesn't plan on lending out the 9-dragon steel this time. Ha ha ha, old man 9 firmaments, who doesn't know how to make up stories? This old man can make a bet with you. This old man's story is even more moving than yours. Inhu laughed unceremoniously. If you want this old man to believe you, and want the other fellow immortals to believe you, then make this auction public. This old man has already revealed himself, so why don't the others who bid for the light beast reveal themselves? This is the only way to prove your magnanimity. Haha, that's right, that's exactly it. Old monster Jifeng was so crafty that when he heard this, he flew out of pavilion number 9. Ao Shuai naturally followed without hesitation. Seeing that the 3 spirits had appeared, a shrill cry came from the 7th pavilion, and a deer spirit with a tree-like horn on its head flew out from there. Dear King Mu. When he saw the deer spirit and the glimmering light in his eyes, Inhu's eyes flashed. Why are you here too? Can't this king take a look at the light beast? The deer spirit's voice was sharp, and an indescribable aura emanated from him. Even the tiger spirit, who was his natural enemy, seemed to find it difficult to resist. Of course you can. Inhu opened his mouth wide, then looked at the 8th pavilion and sneered. This old man wants to know which fellow immortal from the 1,000-monster sacred realm is in the last pavilion. Heh. A rather weak voice sounded from the pavilion. 9 firmaments. Since there are so many experts vying for the light beast, then this old man won't be participating. It doesn't make much of a difference whether I'm there or not. Well, Master 9 firmaments looked a little troubled. Fellow immortal, actually, it's best if you reveal your identity. Otherwise, it'll be very difficult for this old man. -11. Chapter 33:19. Even Inhu is here. How do you expect me to reveal myself? The voice sounded a little anxious. Are you trying to force my hand? You are. Inhu was taken aback when he heard that. He looked at pavilion number 8 with uncertainty. He couldn't figure out which of his enemies was inside. Fellow immortal Inhu. Ao Shuai said without waiting for Master Nina Firmaments to speak. Today's auction is over. Don't mention anything unrelated. At that moment, a faint hiss came from within the ball of light. Although the light beast cub had been trying to break through the ceiling dark clouds, it still looked serene, as if the dark clouds were nothing but a game to it. But now, the light beast cub was a little anxious. It used all its strength to bang its head against the dark clouds. The dragon horns on its head emitted a brilliant white light that fell on the dark clouds. Master Nina Firmaments raised an eyebrow when he saw this. His ears, hidden in his hair, trembled slightly. Unfortunately, it stopped after a moment. Master Nina Firmaments looked at the light beast cub in bewilderment. He didn't know why it was so mad. Master Nina Firmaments, let's start the auction. Old monster Jifeng immediately called out, afraid that things would change if he delayed. Master Nina Firmaments nodded. In that case, let the auction begin, wait. Ao Shuai suddenly thought of something, and he raised his head to look at the other pavilions before he said coldly, the bidding will begin now. If any fellow immortal wishes to bid, then there's no harm in showing yourself right now and revealing your true appearance. If you don't show yourself now, then we won't recognize anyone that comes out to bid after we've started bidding. All right, I'll take a look. As soon as Ao Shuai's voice fell, a middle-aged man wearing a purple gold crown and a 3-clawed golden dragon king robe flew out from a pavilion. He was standing on an auspicious cloud, and his slender figure was as elegant as jade. Who are you? Tell me your name. Old monster Jifeng asked bluntly. The man didn't get angry. He cupped his hands and said, I am Haitian, Imperial Prince of Jassa. I welcome fellow immortals to Jassa after the auction. Ao Shuai and the others didn't look particularly surprised. They only snorted coldly as a greeting. After all, a mortal king couldn't compare to a Confucian cultivator, let alone a prince. I'll take a look as well. Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes. He originally had the same thoughts as he had during the auction, but now that Ao Shuai had made his decision, he glanced at Princess Baihua, whose expression had changed, and activated his flying talisman to fly out of the pavilion. Oh! Seeing Xiao Hua fly out, old demon Jifeng's face lit up with joy. But when he saw that Xiao Hua did not fly to their side, but instead stood there alone, a stern expression appeared on his face. Xiao Hua's intentions were clearly the same as Zhai Xinglu's Bright Moon Palace. They were planning to part ways. Who are you? State your name. Inhu saw that Xiao Hua's looks were nothing to look at, and his cultivation was shallow. He roared, 9 firmaments. Why are there all kinds of people in your auction now? To think that a person with such a cultivation base would dare to bid. No, this is your own disciple, right? It's your pawn. I am Xiao Hua of the Taoist sect. Xiao Hua glanced at Inhu. The auction has always been about primal stones, not cultivation. If you want to fight, you can go outside and find an arena. Did you see that? Fellow Taoist Inhu, this fellow Taoist is Xiao Hua of the Taoist sect. He already bid. Master 9 Firmaments smiled wryly. How could he be my disciple? Nothing is absolute in this world. Inhu could not believe it and shook his head in disbelief. With him participating, I feel uneasy. If I'm not mistaken, he must be the one to bid for the baby light beast. Master 9 Firmaments rolled his eyes and said coldly, you can ask old demon Jifeng about this. Xiao Hua has nothing to do with me. Inhu, Xiao Hua was brought here by me. He has nothing to do with Master 9 Firmaments. Old demon Jifeng hurriedly called out, if you want to bid, hurry up. Otherwise, hurry up and hide. Damn it, of course I want to bid, but I'm not prepared. Inhu finally said the truth. But I have a few rare treasures here. I can ask Master 9 Firmaments to appraise them. Forget it, Haitian said. Whether it's rare treasures, imperial artifacts, or pills, they can all be appraised, but let Master 9 Firmaments set the price. AI, all right. Master 9 Firmaments was now a duck that had been chased out of a tree. What else could he say? He nodded. The rules of bidding have been trampled on by my fellow immortals. Let's do as you say. All right, since Master 9 Firmaments has no objections, then let's begin. Haitian laughed. His voice was very pleasing to the ears, like the spring rain that fell into everyone's ears. Everyone's somewhat anxious hearts actually calmed down, and the entire auction hall had a warm atmosphere. Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows. He did not feel any discomfort. Clearly, this was not a cultivation technique, but a natural charm. This was the first time Xiao Hua had seen such a man. I'll be the first to bid. Inhu opened his mouth and said a number that gave Xiao Hua a fright. Haitian was still unhurried and had the bearing of royalty. Since we're standing here, this humble king has no choice but to bid. This humble king will bid with the wealth of my Jiasa nation. Consider it a show of support for Master 9 Firmaments. Hearing Haitian's words and the number of primeval stones he mentioned, the corner of Xiao Hua's mouth twitched slightly. The wealth of a nation? Who knew how much of the common people's wealth would be shaved off? Although Haitian was a prince of the Jiasa nation, he could only call himself a humble king in the face of the demons of the 1,000-demon sacred realm, especially the Stag King and the East Sea Dragon Palace's inspector. The Stag King did not hide his domineering aura at all. He said coldly, this king does not have the power of a nation, but this king is determined to obtain this radiant beast. After saying that, the Stag King glanced at the silent Ao Shuai. Clearly, he regarded Ao Shuai as his biggest competitor, and then said a number. Ao Shuai did not intend to bid now. He wanted to see how Xiao Hua would increase the price. However, when the Stag King's words reached his ears, he had no choice but to accept the challenge. Sometimes, a verbal confrontation was more dangerous than an open battle. A moment of carelessness could cause one to fall into a disadvantageous position and be used against one's weakness. Ao Shuai was only an inspector of the East Sea Dragon Palace, not the master of the Dragon Palace. He did not dare to lose face for the East Sea Dragon Palace. This envoy came from the East Sea. I have the order of the master of the East Sea Dragon Palace. This radiant beast cub is of great use to my East Sea Dragon Palace. This envoy will definitely not let it go. After saying that, Ao Shuai also coldly glanced at the Stag King and said an even higher number. Now, only Xiao Hua and old monster Jifeng had not bid yet. Venerable 9 Heaven's mouth was very bitter. He did not expect things to change like this. His eyes were fixed on the radiant beast cub that was desperately struggling in the ball of light, but his ears were listening to the bids. In fact, his ears were listening even more. The auction house was deathly silent for a moment. Venerable Nine Heavens glanced at Xiao Hua and old monster Jifeng and said indifferently, "Two immortal friends, you can bid now." Venerable old monster Jifeng cupped his hands and said, "This humble one boasts that his wealth cannot be compared to everyone present. I have just discussed with immortal friend Ao. The two of us will join forces. This humble one will not bid anymore." Venerable Nine Heavens nodded and looked at Xiao Hua. "What about you? Are you also with immortal friend Jifeng?" Xiao Hua looked at the hostile crowd and said with a smile, "This humble one will naturally bid. How about this humble one's bid be 10,000 vitality stones, higher than the winning immortal friend?" "Damn it! You humans are the most cunning." Inhu was furious. "This daddy and the others are here to bid with all our strength, and you're done with just one sentence? This daddy will bid 1,000,000,000 vitality stones? Can you afford it? Do you dare?" Xiaohua was not angry at all. He looked at Inhu up and down and said with a smile, "That depends on whether immortal friend dares to bid like this. If you dare, this Xiao will dare. If you don't dare, then why ask this Xiao?" Hiss, when Xiaohua said this, everyone was shocked. Xiaohua was definitely the biggest dark horse in this auction. Before they heard Xiaohua's words, they definitely did not think too highly of him, even if he had just flown out of the 9th pavilion to participate in the auction. 1,000,000,000 vitality stones, in the entire auction house. Who would dare to say that they had 1,000,000,000 vitality stones? Even if they did, who would dare to say so? But Xiao Hua dared. In the face of Inhu's provocation, Xiao Hua calmly accepted the challenge. This kind of challenge was even more resolute, and fearless than Ao Shuai and the others. "Ha, little friend Xiao," Master Nine Firmaments laughed, seizing this rare opportunity to stall for time. "Even if you have 1,000,000,000 vitality stones, this old man would not dare to accept it. A light beast's cub is not easy to tame, which is why this old man dared to show it off. If I really take 1,000,000,000 vitality stones, I'm afraid this old man won't be able to walk out of Bronze Pillar State." Master Nine Firmaments, don't worry. Hai Tian laughed. "If you have 1,000,000,000 vitality stones, this one will personally escort you out of Bronze Pillar State and guarantee your safety to my Jiasa country." "Don't. If this old man had 1,000,000,000 vitality stones, I would still want to spend the rest of my life in Bronze Pillar State." Master Nine Firmaments hurriedly waved his hand. "How can I just leave? Spend the rest of my life? That's not good." Hai Tian said with a frown, "With you overseeing Bronze Pillar State, who is the ruler of Bronze Pillar State afraid of? Where should my Jiasa country go from here?" "Haha." Master Nine Firmaments laughed, then looked at Xiao Hua and asked, "Little friend Xiao, this old man is actually not interested in whether or not you have 1,000,000,000 vitality stones. What this old man wants to ask you is, from the looks of it, you are determined to obtain this light beast. However, if others obtain this beast, they can use its soul, bloodline, and even its body. Your cultivation, or even your physical body, is not enough to refine this light beast. Actually, this old man will make it clear. According to what this old man knows, there are definitely Taoist seniors in the hidden immortal continent who can control this light beast, but this old man does not know any of them. So when this old man invited you, I did not consider Taoist disciples. I wonder which Taoist senior you are bidding for this light beast for?" -11. Chapter 33:20. Master Nine Firmaments looked at Xiao Hua eagerly. He didn't expect to get a definite answer from Xiao Hua. He only needed a single word to prove Xiao Hua's true purpose. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua didn't answer yes, nor did he say which Taoist senior he was. Instead, he glanced at the crowd of demons and said indifferently, "This Xiao didn't come for any Taoist senior, nor do I represent any Taoist power. This Xiao represents the two words Xiao Hua." After hearing this, Master Nine Firmaments frowned. He looked at this little Taoist who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth in confusion. If this Xiao Hua didn't have a screw loose, then he must have some great divine ability. However, It was obvious that venerable Master Nine Heavens could only see that Xiao Hua had intentionally revealed a trace of his cultivation base as a Confucian cultivator, and his strength was only at the first grade of origin energy. He couldn't see anything else apart from Xiao Hua's rash actions. Thus, Master Nine Firmaments looked at the beautiful Princess Baihua in the ninth pavilion and fell into deep thought. However, Xiao Hua's following words were like a bolt of lightning that fell into Master Nine Firmament's ears. To tell you the truth, this shout didn't come for the baby of the radiant beast. This shout didn't even know what Master Nine Firmaments could bid for in this auction. This shout only wanted to get a few Taoist foundational cultivation methods. Xiao Hua said calmly, however, "When this Xiao heard your plans, this Xiao had no choice but to participate in this auction." "Motherfucker, what do you mean?" Inhu roared loudly, causing the entire space to tremble. Xiao Hua looked thin and weak, but his waist, which was straighter than bamboo, swayed slightly in the tiger's roar. However, no matter how much he swayed, he didn't bend in the slightest. His indifferent and calm voice continued to emerge from the tiger's roar. "Nothing. No matter how noble the radiant beast's bloodline is, no matter how supreme the radiant beast's soul is, no matter how precious the radiant beast's body is, it is still a life. A living life. There are many living things in this world. Humans, demons, livestock, insects, birds, beasts, and so on. They are all living things. No matter how noble or lowly they are, there is no difference. They are all equal." The so-called distinction between the noble and the lowly was nothing more than an artificial division. Although humans had the ability to eat birds and beasts and control livestock, human lives were not more precious than the lives of birds and beasts. Although humans were the food of demons, the lives of demons were not more precious than human lives. Being a light beast while being a lowly ant is a gift from the heavenly Tao. Every life is precious, unique, and should be respected. He despised his own life, killed the light beast's life, and wanted to use the light beast's life to increase his own life. This was disrespectful to his own life. Humans are human because they have humanity, understand human relations, respect life, and love life. Humans might not have a strong physical body, but they had a strong heart. It was a love filled with riches. I am not talented. I am not a scholarly scholar, nor am I a benevolent senior monk. However, I am a human. I am willing to use my identity as a Taoist cultivator and the unique human heart to bid for this light beast. I want to use my human heart to fight against your demon heart. I do not believe that there is no such thing as a kind human heart in this world. As for whether I can control this beast or not, there is no need for you fellow immortals to consider. I did not intend to control it. I will not refine its bloodline. I will not refine its soul, and I will not take over its body. I am willing to treat it as my own child. I will watch it grow, watch it become mighty, watch it laugh proudly at the world. Perhaps I will turn around and let it go. That would be normal. Clap, 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 clap. Just as the demons were stunned by Xiao Hua's words, Hai Tian clapped and praised, "Little friend Xiao, you really have the heart of all living beings. Every word of yours is like a gem. I also have the same thoughts. I do not want to use this light beast for anything. I only want it to land in my Jiasa country and become my Jiasa country's guardian beast. It will receive the worship of my Jiasa country for the rest of its life. If little friend Xiao does not mind, you and I can join hands to bid for it." "Ha ha ha, this is really funny." The Stag King laughed loudly. "If I did not see it with my own eyes, I would have thought that it was those baldies from the Pure Land who came to bid. However, the ethics of your Confucian cultivator is no different from the scriptures of Buddhism. You are all hypocritical and righteous. You are all hypocritical and compassionate." This Hai Tian still has some sincerity and stated his purpose. He only wants to treat this light beast as the guardian beast of the country and make the light beast work for Jiasa country for the rest of its life. This is admittedly much better than having its soul refined by others, but how is it different from me and the others? And you, little Taoist, are even more ridiculous. You, a human, have the qualifications to be the light beast's father? You still treat it as a child? You are really shameless. Who knows what you want to do with it? Xiaohua's expression was the same as usual. He pointed his finger to the sky and then to the ground. He said with a smile, "What I have done, I have not let down the heavens and I have not let down the earth. There is no need for others to point fingers at me. The heavens are the heavens and the earth are the heavens. No one has the qualifications to make an oath. And I, Xiao, under the heavens, have no need to make an oath to others. Even if you win the bid, can you walk out of Bronze Pillar Country?" Although Master Nine Heavens was angry and amused, thinking that he had met a bookworm little Taoist, he still asked with a smile, "If you don't do what you can, you are afraid. If you don't do what you can, you are brave. In this world, there are too many things that people don't do because of their fear. There are too many people like this. It doesn't matter if I am there or not. You might as well let me be a fool and do more things that I can't do." Xiaohua did not directly answer Master Nine Heaven's words. Instead, his gaze swept across the faces of the demons, and he said indifferently, "In the past, I was quite timid when doing things. I always thought about the future. Even if I had some ideas in my heart, the results would be different and things would not go as I wished. Now that I have experienced many trials and hardships, I understand that there are too many things in this world that are helpless and difficult. However, they are all tests of the heavens. If one cannot withstand this test, it will be difficult for one's heart to improve. Now, this matter, since I have seen it, it is a test given to me by the heavens. I am willing to go against the flow and do it." Xiao Hua's words were sonorous and powerful, and they came from the bottom of his heart. Rather than saying it to the demons, he might as well say it to himself. Unfortunately, the demons in the auction house were all strong-willed. The prince named Hai Tian was used to seeing all kinds of people. What kind of words had he not heard? They only treated these words as fodder for a joke. "Haha, how funny." King Stag laughed loudly. "Talking about human nature with demons like us in the thousand-demon sacred realm? Are you a little Taoist, hot-headed? Master Nine Heavens, what are you waiting for? I don't care about what Enhu said just now, but you are delaying again and again. You are actually listening to the crazy words of a little child here. If I didn't trust you and old monster Zhifeng, I would have." Master Nine Heavens listened with a smile on his face, but his eyes were fixed on the light infant in the white ball of light. After such a long time, the infant was still in a frenzy. It used its hooves, head, and mouth to tear at the restrictions around it. Master Nine Heavens had never seen such a scene before. Master Nine Heavens narrowed his eyes. He rolled his eyes a few times, but did not look up. Now that he heard King Stag's rebuke, he raised his head with a smile and said, "King Mulu, I am not delaying. I am just thinking that you all are determined to get it. I wonder how long you will keep bidding. Just now, this little friend Xiao promised hundreds of millions of primal stones. Actually, it's not as I thought. Everyone will bid a price and send me a voice transmission. Hee hee. Old man Nine Heavens, don't even think about it." Enhu sneered. "If that's the case, you can do whatever you want. How will others know? How about this?" Master Nine Heavens retracted his gaze from the light infant and looked at the crowd. "I already said before that the nine-child dragon steel will not be lent out. Since that's the case, let's see who can subdue the light infant first. Only then will they have the right to take it away." Damn it! Old Monster Zhifeng was furious when he heard this. Wasn't Master Nine Heavens picking up the wisdom of others? However, it just so happened that Old Monster Zhifeng had nothing to say. That was because this Yahui was his to begin with. The problem was that he couldn't even subdue a Pegasus, so how could he subdue a light beast? However, seeing Ao Shuai's confidence, Old Monster Zhifeng's heart was finally at ease. However, his heart slowly began to bleed. How could the price of Ao Shuai's primal stones be the same as Ao Shuai's? The current Old Monster Zhifeng unconsciously and fiercely glared at Xiaohua. Xiaohua was originally his greatest trump card. However, this greatest card was still the same. However, it had already become his greatest obstacle. However, Enhu frowned and said reluctantly, "Old man Nine Heavens, didn't you lend out the nine-child dragon steel before? Why aren't you lending it this time? I can add primal stones to it." Hee hee. If this light infant and the 9-child dragon steel are returned, I'm afraid I won't be able to clear my name. Master Nine Heavens didn't point it out and explained with a faint smile. Enhu was immediately put in a difficult position. He was the one who first aroused the suspicions of the demons towards Master Nine Heavens. Now, Master Nine Heavens' counterattack had almost robbed him of his chance to bid. Enhu didn't have full confidence in being able to subdue the light infant. All right. Stag King clapped his hands. How do we begin? Do we attack together, or do we take turns? Naturally, we'll attack together. Ao Shuai glanced at Stag King, then inadvertently glanced at Xiao Hua. -11. Chapter 33:21. In fact, the current situation was already very clear. Ao Shuai didn't believe that Enhu, who had stirred up trouble, had the ability to subdue the baby light beast. He also didn't think that Hai Tian, the prince of Jiasa Kingdom, would have a higher cultivation level than Enhu. If Xiao Hua didn't have Xiao Hei's help, Ao Shuai wouldn't have taken Xiao Hua seriously either. Then only the Stag King was left. Is that so? Master Nine Firmaments. Although the Stag King was speaking to Master Nine Firmaments, he also looked up at Ao Shuai. Their gazes seemed to spark in midair. I'm afraid that's the only way. Master Nine Firmaments smiled bitterly. He looked at the stone wall and said, "This old man has some restrictions on this stone wall that can barely block the light beast's shadow. You two, oh, 3 immortals, please do your best. Whoever can capture this light beast first can take it away. Of course, before this old man opens the 9 dragon steels, you 3 immortals still have to transmit your voice to this old man and tell me how many spirit stones you're willing to pay." Xiao Hua looked at the 2 demons who were waiting for him. After thinking for a while, he gave a number. This number was about the same as the previous bid. He also believed that the others wouldn't give a sky-high price. After waiting for the demons and the people to tacitly give their bids, Master Nine Firmaments flew up from where he was and rushed to the stone wall. He was some distance away from the 9 dragon steels. Then, he opened his mouth and let out a mournful cry. Soon after, a faintly discernible demon bird suddenly flashed out. A dense demon aura split into 9 streams and rushed into the 9 steels. Boom, rumbling sounds that could shake mountains and the earth came from the inky steel. The entire space that was enveloped by the 9 suns dragon steel rapidly trembled at the same time. The 9 suns dragon steel suddenly shrank and shot out in all directions. Roar! The baby light beast suppressed by the steels let out a mournful cry. Its body flashed with a brilliance that was several times sharper than the flying swords. This brilliance instantly pierced through the dark clouds that had lost the support of the 9 steels. The baby light beast, which was the size of a donkey, immediately broke free from its imprisonment. The baby light beast stretched its neck and let out a long cry. It didn't flee outside the space. Instead, it rushed recklessly toward the second pavilion. If it was before, Venerable Nine Heavens would still have some doubts, but when he saw the baby light beast's actions, a smile appeared on his face. Hai Tian naturally didn't know what was going on. When he saw the baby light beast charging in his direction, he immediately revealed a smug expression. He reached out his hand to take out his imperial equipment, wanting to take advantage of this opportunity to capture the baby light beast. Unfortunately, before his hand could reach into his bosom, there was a long cry, and a ray of light shocked the prince of the Jiasa kingdom. The long cry sounded like a bugle horn between the heavens and the earth. Tens of thousands of awe-inspiring chi swept in from all directions, causing all living things to fall under the awe-inspiring aura. The brilliance was purer than the brilliance of the sun, purer than the brilliance of the moon. The sudden heat wave even caused the restriction that protected the pavilion to collapse in an instant. Following the sound of the bugle horn, an old woman dressed in black appeared from the pavilion where the brilliance came from. Of course, the old woman's figure only appeared for a moment. Her black clothes turned into flying butterflies, and her body became even more messy. Accompanied by a pure white light, a body several times larger than the baby light beast appeared in front of everyone's eyes. As soon as the baby light beast appeared, it opened its mouth and roared, causing the entire space to tremble. Then, the baby light beast shook its head, and waves of chi rushed out like a flood. This invisible chi was even more difficult to stop than a visible flood. Hai Tian was sent flying like an ant. Inhu was sent flying like a mouse that had seen a cat. King Stag and Ao Shui tried their best to take a few steps back, but they still tried their best to stabilize their bodies. Their eyes were dignified, and it was obvious that they wanted to contend with the baby light beast. Looking at the light beast cub, it was like a little pony that was jumping around in the air. It was like a swallow returning to its nest as it ran towards the light beast. The longing in its eyes, the attachment in its actions, and the coquettish cries it let out were really similar to a little Jiao heir that had just seen its mother. Fellow immortals, if we want to capture the baby light beast, we must first capture the baby light beast. Venerable Master Nine Firmament's face was filled with joy, and he said loudly, "Don't worry. This old man has set up this auction to capture this light beast. If you can help this old man capture this light beast, this old man will give this light beast cub to you for free." As soon as Guru Nine Firmaments finished speaking, the Nine Firmaments dragon steel emitted a thick, black demonic fog and shot towards the auction like 9 tentacles. Damn it, we've been tricked. Hearing Guru Nine Firmaments' words, both Inhu and King Stag were enlightened. How could they not know Guru Nine Firmaments' plan? However, with the baby light beast in front of them, who could resist the temptation in their hearts? This old man will help you. The first to respond was naturally Ao Shui. With a wave of his hand, a golden brilliance flashed, and a medallion of vital energy flew out from his hand. As soon as it appeared in the air, it immediately produced strands of immortal music. Along with the music, inscriptions appeared in the air and circled around the medallion like flying shadows. The Immortal Law Medallion? Guru Nine Firmaments almost cried out when he saw the medallion, but he suppressed the excitement in his heart and slowly uttered the words. That's right. This is the East Sea Immortal Law Medallion of the East Sea Dragon Palace, bestowed by the Immortal Emperor of the Immortal Palace. Ao Shui said proudly. He opened his dragon mouth and spat out a golden dragon's breath that landed on the medallion. The medallion emitted a golden light that spanned dozens of feet and suddenly transformed into a bamboo slip that flew towards the light beast. As the bamboo slip flew, the shadows of the inscriptions on the armor broke through inch by inch, and a restrictive force that even 10,000 immortals couldn't resist completely enveloped the area around the light beast. Haha, the Immortal Law Chapter is only a... The Immortal Law Chapter was so powerful in Guru Nine Firmament's eyes, but the other kings didn't care about it at all. The Stag King sneered and opened his mouth. His vital energy, which looked like a jade seal, came out of his mouth. This jade seal landed in the air, and a spiral of demonic fog appeared in the air. It was even more aggressive than the inscriptions on the armor. It dispersed the righteous chi summoned by the light beast. Moreover, this demonic fog carried with it a myriad of wind blades that looked like scythes that crushed towards the light beast. With loud rumbling sounds, it surpassed the Immortal Law Chapter and rushed in front of the light beast. Roar! The light beast roared. The light around its body was like a sword that pierced towards the demonic fog of the 9 Children Dragon tablet. The demonic fog didn't seem to be a match for the light beast's light at all. It immediately turned into fine strands and didn't pose any threat to the light beast at all. However, this light fell into the inscriptions on the armor of the Immortal Law Chapter and was immediately absorbed by the inscriptions on the armor. The inscriptions on the armor became stronger and weaker. The Immortal Law Chapter wasn't much. The most powerful thing was still the Stag King's Jade Seal. Wherever the demonic fog of the Jade Seal went, the void was cut open. The light beast's light was also cut open by the wind blades of the demonic fog and turned into fireflies. Poof! The light beast kicked its hooves and countless rui and golden flowers appeared. Some of them rushed towards the light beast cub. At the same time, it opened its mouth and spat out a pure white, almost shapeless inner elixir. It crashed towards the Stag King's Jade Seal. Whether it was the Jade Seal or the inner elixir, they were both the final killing moves. However, it just so happened that the 2 most powerful weapons of destruction were the first to collide. With a muffled boom, waves of incomparable power were emitted from the two treasures of heaven and earth. No matter if it was the righteous aura, the monster, or the black aura from the Nine Suns dragon steel, they were all destroyed by this power. Even the light beast also retreated a few steps. The Stag King even somersaulted a few times in the air and barely stood still. As for Xiaohua, under the powerful aura of the light beast, his whole body was submerged in it. It was as if he had never felt such a feeling before. Not only were his limbs weak, his whole body floated down from the air. Even his mouth and nose were unable to breathe. He was on the verge of drowning. Xiaohua was shocked and immediately used the sun shroud technique. An indescribable whirlwind stretched out from Xiaohua's body. The whirlwind accompanied the pressure released by Xiaohua and tried its best to resist the aura of the light beast. It was at this moment that Xiaohua was powerless to look around. Suddenly, a sharp, invisible wind sword quietly attacked Xiaohua's back along with the chaotic aura of the entire arena. Xiaohua was releasing his pressure and was extremely sensitive to it. With a cold snort, he waved his hand and the wishful staff came out at the critical moment. With a bang, it was the tail of the wind sword. The second half of the wind sword instantly turned into a mess and was torn apart by the aura, but the first half pierced Xiaohua's back. Although Xiaohua had already tried his best to twist his body to avoid it, the wind sword still left a half-foot-long and an inch-wide wound. The strange thing was that the wound did not seep out fresh blood in an ordinary manner. Wisps of black qi mixed with the glow of the fire flashed within the wound like threads. Following the lingering black qi, the wound swiftly healed, causing the wound to become increasingly small. Ouch! Xiaohua did not have time to look at the origin of the wind sword. Old Monster Zhifeng's surprised voice came from there. Obviously, he saw the strangeness of Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua was furious and shouted, "Old Monster Zhifeng, you're courting death." With that, Xiaohua urged the flying talisman and waved the wishful staff in the direction of Old Monster Zhifeng. Heh. Old Monster Zhifeng might have seen Xiaohua's strange behavior and even sensed Xiaohua's increasing pressure, but he still let out a cold laugh. He shook his arms, and an earthen yellow light flashed. A gigantic Dharma idol of a spirit rat appeared from his body. Before the Dharma idol could fully take shape, it opened its mouth, and thousands of wind swords and wind blades appeared around Xiaohua. They rained down on Xiaohua. -11. Chapter 33:22. This guy really does have some tricks up his sleeve. Sensing the sharpness of these wind swords, Xiaohua didn't dare to be careless. He hurriedly waved his staff to protect himself, hoping not to make any mistakes. Seeing that the staff had broken the first wind swords, and that even more wind swords were coming from behind, Xiaohua really didn't have the power to fight back. It was also at this time that the Imperial Jade Seal and the inner core collided. The force was more powerful than the wind and swept through the entire space. Xiaohua's figure became unstable and was once again flipped over in the air. Old Monster Zhifeng was also unable to stand, his entire body tumbling in the air like a pellet. As for the wind swords attacking Xiaohua, they had already been shattered by the force. The force was so great that the 9 pavilions on the stone wall were completely exposed. The cultivators sitting inside all activated their origin tools and imperial tools, doing their best to resist the impact. They were completely helpless like fish in a moat caught in a fire at the city gate. The most pitiful were not the cultivators, but the light baby beast. It originally pounced on the light beast, but in the blink of an eye, the light beast had already exchanged several moves with the Stag King and Ao Shuai. Even Hai Tian and Yin Hu couldn't participate in this kind of fight, let alone the light baby beast. The light beast's aura may not cause any harm to it, but the force of the impact suddenly lifted the light baby beast straight from the air to the top of the space. The light baby beast cried out, the anxiety in its heart more than panic. Just as the light baby beast stabilized its body, it didn't have time to rush at the light beast again. But then there was a rumbling sound. The 9 dragon steels that Master 9 Heavens had previously withdrawn to the surrounding space made a sound at the same time. From the dragon steels, thick black gas gushed out. The black gas each took the appearance of the 9 dragon suns, and they bared their fangs and brandished their claws at the light baby beast. Ayo! The light baby beast let out a sorrowful cry. Its body emitted a strong brilliance, wanting to disperse the black gas. Unfortunately, the white brilliance only pierced the black gas and disappeared immediately. It didn't cause any threat. The light baby beast was angry. Its forehooves kicked wildly, producing a lot of clouds. Then it lowered its head and rushed at one of the dragon's steels with its dragon horns. An extremely brilliant brilliance was rapidly brewing between the dragon horns. Clearly, this was the light infant beast going all out. Caw. In the chaotic space, there was a sudden, excited cry of an eagle. Master Nine Heavens had also revealed his true form. A huge, ugly sparrow hawk flapped its pitch-black wings, and its claws flashed with a stench and death chi. It pounced towards the baby light beast, trying to stop it from attacking the dragon's steel. The sparrow hawk flapped its wings and flew to the top of the baby light beast's head in the blink of an eye. Although the baby light beast's body was white like snow, the sparrow hawk's claws were as black as ink. Not only did it block the white light, it also pierced through the white light and grabbed the baby light beast's back. Eowwo! The light infant beast let out a sorrowful cry. The brilliance around its body was greatly reduced, and the white light that was brewing between its dragon horns also disappeared. The light beast was enraged by the fact that the baby light beast was injured. With a thunderous sound, its entire body swelled up. Quick, let's attack at the same time. Ao Shuai saw that the light beast had swelled up and knew that it was not good, so he hurriedly shouted. Then, the immortal law chapter in midair flashed with endless rays of light, and thousands of inscriptions rushed out from it, forming words and sentences. In the end, they gathered into pages of inscriptions, complementing the black chi of the Nine Suns dragon steel, and fell towards the light beast. The black chi of the Nine Suns dragon steel was surging violently, and the rays of light of the immortal law chapter were also imposing, and the sounds of chanting were loud and clear. However, when the two treasures converged, the light and darkness combined, and it was like a perfect pair of pearls and jade. An aura that was even more powerful than the light beast's aura rushed out from the treasures, but it did not move. It was like a powerful nightmare that could not be found anywhere, and it controlled the area around the light beast. Roar! The light beast roared angrily, and the entire space shook violently. However, the dazzling rays of light around the light beast suddenly disappeared, as if the scorching sun at noon had suddenly disappeared. Everyone's eyes darkened, and it was as if something extremely important was missing in their hearts. This doubt only lasted for a moment, and a ray of light that was even more dazzling than before, so dazzling that it directly pierced the heart, appeared in the light beast's chest. This dazzling light was heart-shaped, and it was only the size of a soybean, but its brilliance once again lit up the entire space. The light beast's body that could not be seen clearly before now looked like a transparent statue, and it was abnormally ferocious in the light and shadow. This light beast was several feet long, and its dragon head was one size larger than Ao Shuai's. However, there were some differences. The dragon horns were slightly curved, and the bright and dark runes on them were rhythmically moving like music. On the Cheelant's body, the folds of palm-sized scales glowed. What was different from before was that the edges of the scales were abnormally dark, and only about 80% of the center of the scales shone brilliantly. The four thick bull legs were surrounded by countless auspicious clouds, and it really looked like an auspicious beast. Unfortunately, the light beast's bloodshot eyes were faintly flickering with flames, and it opened its ferocious mouth to let out an extremely angry roar. An ordinary man was innocent, but treasuring a jade ring would arouse the envy of others. Thump, thump, thump. The dazzling light in the light beast's heart beat 3 times like a heartbeat, and the light had already completely enveloped the light beast. The 3 heartbeats filled the entire space, and everyone, all the demons and everything in the space, all beat 3 times at the same time. Without any surprise, the 9 children dragon steel and immortal law chapter's light curtain that encircled and suppressed the light beast also rippled 3 times like the black chi. Although these 3 ripples could be compared to a white horse passing by, The light curtain and black chi had already covered the light beast's body like a clap of thunder. Gugugug. A burst of what seemed to be countless bubbles gushing out, as if the entire space was boiling. Xiao Hua, who had just stabilized his body, couldn't help but float up and down. Not only did his meager magic power want to leave his meridians, even the blood vessels in his body felt like they were being sucked out. Damn, this light beast is so terrifying. Xiao Hua turned pale with fright. Taking advantage of the flying talisman's effect, he hastily slid down and floated down to the nearest pavilion. Just as Xiao Hua was about to get close to the pavilion, boom, a world-shaking sound rang out. The 9 children Dragonsteel's 9 dark clouds were blown apart, and the Immortal Law Chapter's armor was shattered into fragments. The bodies of the 2 strange treasures even rushed towards the 4 walls of the space in an extremely sorry state. In the midst of this explosion, the light beast proudly flew out, rushing towards the light beast cub caught by the hawk owl's sharp claws. Woo! Just as the light beast's figure appeared, the Stag King's Imperial Jade Seal had already arrived. This Imperial Jade Seal had been accumulating power for a long time, and now it had already transformed into several zhang in size, completely covering the light beast. The light beast wasn't afraid in the slightest. Just as it was about to open its mouth and spit out its inner core, oh, the light beast cub's mournful cry resounded through the entire space. Xiao Hua raised his head and looked over. It was also at this moment that the light beast cub had already been caught by the hawk owl that venerable Master Nine Heavens had transformed into. Those sharp claws, which were several chi in size, had already grabbed the cub's back. Those pitch-black claws seemed to have captured the light. No matter how hard the white light tried to stretch within the claws, it was still unable to struggle free. On the contrary, a strand of blood flowed down the cub's back. Seeing this, Xiao Hua's heart couldn't help but tighten. The light beast cub was only a cub. It probably hadn't suffered such pain before, right? Go. At this moment, Xiao Hua was unable to help the light beast. He waved his hand, and the divine power centipede immediately rushed out of the space. Flying towards the hawk owl, Xiao Hua couldn't bear it anymore. How could the light beast use ordinary methods? Wong. The light beast's mouth opened slightly before closing. The light around its body became even brighter. Countless white runes appeared on the dragon horns on its head. Without the slightest hesitation, it directly collided with the Imperial Jade Seal. Rumble. The entire space once again emitted a deafening sound. The Imperial Jade Seal, which was several zhang in size, was sent flying at an angle. The light on the light beast's head also became slightly dimmer. However, the light beast didn't stop at all. It stomped its 4 hooves, causing the wind and clouds to surge as it rushed towards the hawk owl. The light beast was fast, but the divine power centipede was even faster. The divine power centipede had just left the space, and as if it didn't need Xiao Hua's instructions, it flew towards the hawk owl that was surrounded by black chi. At first, Xiao Hua was worried that the divine power centipede, which also had black chi, would be afraid of the light beast cub's light and wouldn't be able to get close. However, looking at the divine power centipede's valiant and spirited appearance, the light didn't have much effect on it. Of course, the divine power centipede was still somewhat afraid of the light beast cub's light. It attacked the hawk owl's legs. Wu, seeing the divine power centipede that was only a few chi long, the hawk owl wasn't afraid at all. It spread its wings, and a powerful tornado blew over, as if it wanted to sweep the divine power centipede away. Unexpectedly, the divine power centipede was like a boulder. Its body didn't even sway as it continued to rush towards the hawk owl's abdomen. At this moment, the hawk owl became anxious. It spread its wings, and there was actually a faint sound of wind and thunder. Crackle! The hawk owl pecked at the divine power centipede with its sharp beak. A pitch-black lightning actually rushed out from its beak and accurately hit the divine power centipede. The lightning was lingering around the divine power centipede's body. At the place where it was hit, apart from green smoke, there were also a few marks that looked like plum blossoms. The divine power centipede didn't seem to be injured. However, under the powerful lightning, the divine power centipede had no choice but to curl up into a ball. Although the divine power centipede didn't succeed, its help came at the right time. The moment the hawk owl spat out the wind and thunder, the light beast was already in front of it. Seeing that its enemy was right in front of it, the light beast didn't use any other methods. It curled up its body and rammed into the hawk owl. This collision was like a landslide. A whistling sound was heard, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, the righteous chi, and all other kinds of spiritual energy condensed into a pillar and rushed towards the hawk owl. The hawk owl had already prepared for the light beast's attack. However, the divine power centipede's interference just now had messed up his plan, and the light beast took this opportunity to ram into it. The hawk owl's wings sped up, and the sound of wind and thunder was heard. Countless black flames mixed with lightning flew out from its pitch-black wings. Furthermore, there was a foot-long lightning bolt that rushed out from its beak, and together with the wind and thunder on its wings, it attacked the light beast. -11. Chapter 33:23. Crackle, crackle, rumble. Thousands of rumbling sounds reverberated through the space like a tsunami. The glaring brilliance dazzled everyone's eyes. Xiao Hua's figure had just stabilized itself on the pavilion when it began to shake violently. Even the entire pavilion was on the verge of collapse. Gah! The dazzling collision ended with a heart-wrenching cry. A black shadow that was close to 10 feet in size flew into the sky like a kite with a broken string. It looked like it was about to crash into the stone wall of the space. The black feathers collided with one of the pavilions on the stone wall, causing the pavilion to fall from the stone wall in an even more chaotic manner. Several cultivators inside turned pale and flew out in a panic. They stopped in midair, not knowing what to do, and each of them used their own methods to protect themselves. As for the black feathers that had just sent the pavilion flying, there was another crack that was about 10 feet long. Light surged from the crack and rapidly corroded Hawk Owl's body. Around the crack, the black feathers that were several feet in size scattered all over the sky. Roar! The light beast that had injured Hawk Owl didn't stop. In a spurt of energy, it let out a long roar. Without waiting for Ao Shuai, the Stag King, and the other demons to catch up, it immediately charged at Hawk Owl that had already lost its balance, preparing to kill it in one blow. The light beast's plan was naturally as it wished, but Hawk Owl's claws were still holding onto the baby light beast. Seeing the light beast attack again, Hawk Owl's claws tightened once more. Roar! The baby light beast couldn't help but let out another miserable cry. The baby light beast was connected to the heart. No matter if it was a human or a demon, when the light beast heard the miserable cry, its body couldn't help but tremble slightly. In the blink of an eye, another change occurred. Chi-chi-chi-chi. As if thousands of hippos were farting at the same time. Waves of fishy stench and sky-piercing sounds suddenly came from the four walls of the space. In particular, the 9 pavilions that the crowd and the demons were in suddenly shattered with these strange noises. Behind the 9 pavilions, 9 huge chrysanthemum-shaped holes were revealed. Thick black fog mixed with a fishy smell gushed out from the holes like bees. These 9 black fog were different from the fishy smell emitted from the stone walls. The moment they appeared, they immediately enveloped the light beast. At this moment, Venerable 9 Heavens Hawk Owl definitely had a plan to lure the light beast here. This black fog was most likely a huge ambush for Venerable 9 Heavens. Venerable 9 Heavens. The people and demons that were originally hiding in the pavilions had no choice but to fly out of the pavilions. Their bodies all flashed with various colors of light and fog, and even stepped on auspicious clouds to protect themselves as they shouted at Venerable 9 Heavens. At the same time, everyone and the demons were also alarmed. They ordered everyone to use their methods to protect themselves. The 9 indescribable black mists with a fishy stench were definitely powerful. The light beast's figure immediately dimmed. When Venerable 9 Heavens Hawk Owl saw this, a trace of joy flashed through its eyes. However, just as it revealed this joy, it suddenly sensed danger. It hurriedly spread its wings, and a jet of black lightning shot out from its beak. Its eyes revealed a shocked and angry expression. This was because the divine power centipede that had curled up to avoid the lightning took advantage of the hawk owl's ambush. It suddenly broke free from the lightning and attacked the hawk owl like a black light, grabbing the light beast's left claw. The divine power centipede actually had such intelligence. It was actually able to seize this excellent opportunity. Even Xiaohua, who was watching from afar, was surprised. However, Xiaohua didn't have time to be surprised. He knew that he didn't have the strength to fly over to help the divine power centipede, so he didn't hesitate at all. With a wave of his hand, he took out the Pegasus from his storage bag and Little Black from the space. He only gave Little Black a command. Then he activated the lightning flash and thunder roll technique, preparing to help the light beast. Since the divine power centipede was already like this, Little Black was even more clever. It didn't fly in the direction of the light beast's cub, but landed on the Pegasus' head and commanded it to fly towards the hawk owl. The divine power centipede's speed was very fast, and it had planned to catch the hawk owl off guard. It had already hit the hawk owl's left claw when the lightning struck. There was almost no sound, but the tough hawk owl's left claw was actually smashed into pieces by the divine power centipede. Gee, the hawk owl was in great pain, and it couldn't help but let out a long cry. Its left claw loosened, and the light beast escaped from the hawk owl's left claw. After the divine power centipede succeeded, it didn't move an inch and immediately curled up into a ball again. At this time, the hawk owl's wind and thunder had already arrived, and it hit the divine power centipede's body. With a crackling sound, thousands of lightning flashed on the divine power centipede's pitch-black body. Of course, looking at the divine power centipede's slightly trembling appearance, the lightning might not be able to hurt it at all. Unfortunately, although the divine power centipede's attack was effective, the hawk owl's right claw was still holding the light beast's cub. Furthermore, after the hawk owl's left claw was injured, it was going to attack the light beast's cub again. The light beast was still in danger. On the other hand, Little Black was commanding the Pegasus. When the Pegasus saw the hawk owl and the light beast's cub, it seemed to be hesitating. It wasn't clear if it was afraid or not. But Little Black was more resourceful than any other human or Yao. The Pegasus spread its wings, and its body emitted a light that was not inferior to the light beast's cub, and it rushed towards the hawk owl. However, even though they were fast, they were still slower than the hawk owl's left claw. The divine power centipede's attack was going to be wasted. Boom! Another loud sound rang out, and a solid pillar of light shot out from the pitch-black stench, shattering it. From the pillar of light, the light beast could be seen madly rushing out. It opened its mouth, and its nidin expanded to the size of a bucket. Like a meteorite, it flashed and disappeared in a flash. In the blink of an eye, it appeared above hawk owl's right claw. Crack! A crisp sound was heard, followed by a mournful cry. The poor hawk owl was injured again. The hawk owl's right claw was shattered, so it was naturally unable to grab the light beast's cub. The light beast escaped from the hawk owl's claws and immediately rushed towards the light beast. However, the light beast that had just escaped from the black mist glanced at the Pegasus and even at Xiaohua in the distance. Its gaze fell on Little Black, who was on top of the Pegasus' head, and its eyes were filled with fear and shock. However, the light beast didn't have time to think. The Immortal Law Chapter, the Nine Dragon Steel, and the Imperial Jade Seal that had been sent flying earlier had already regrouped when it was trapped by the black mist. When the light beast broke through the black mist, these treasures had already surrounded the light beast once again. The light beast didn't dare to look at Little Black for too long. It suddenly turned its head and actually looked at Xiaohua again. As if it had made a decision, a very dignified voice sounded in Xiaohua's ears. "Little guy, if thou can help me today, I will definitely repay thee in the future." Xiaohua's body shook. The light beast's aura was really too powerful. This simple sentence was like a bolt from the blue, shaking his ears and even his heart to rumble. Xiaohua was just about to reply, but the light beast's gaze had already fallen on the light beast's cub, and its eyes were filled with affection. Although the light beast didn't say anything, the light beast immediately stopped in midair, and its four hooves moved in a very spoiled manner. Then, as if it was playing, it flew towards the Pegasus that was flying towards it. Crack, crack, crack. How could the hawk owl allow the light beast's cub to land on the Pegasus' head? It opened its mouth, flapped its wings, and wind and thunder appeared out of thin air again. However, this time, Hawk Owl was not as sharp as before. Within a radius of 10 feet around him, the wind and clouds were also surging. Ka-cha-cha, bursts of green light flashed past, and streaks of lightning were like a large net, completely covering Hawk Owl. This time, it was even more strange than Hawk Owl's wind and thunder, and it was even more concentrated. Caw. The Hawk Owl let out a startled cry, but this cry seemed to be powerless within the millions of lightning bolts. The Hawk Owl was so shocked that it couldn't care less about chasing after the light beast's cub. It hurriedly reversed its wings, and its bird head was even more chaotic. One after another, lightning bolts went against the current to meet the green heavenly lightning. The 2 layers of lightning bolts each displayed their magical powers, and like 2 waves of thunderbolts, they began to make a heaven-shocking attack. Everyone, including all the demons, was shocked. They knew each other, and wanted to find out who had such a powerful ability. After all, if this lightning-attracting technique wasn't an innate magical ability, it couldn't be easily used. Now that everyone had been forced out of the pavilion, who could still keep their secrets? The concealment had been removed, and among them, there were quite a few humans and demons who had some impressions. However, after looking at it, no one could tell who had made the move. So much so that everyone's gaze was fixed on Xiao Hua, who was slowly flying towards the hawk owl. Aside from the dark green color on Xiao Hua's forehead, they couldn't see anything strange about him. It was as if he had nothing to do with the 2 words, thunder and lightning, that were even more vigorous than the flood dragon in midair. Of course, even if this lightning flashing rolling thunder technique wasn't used by Xiao Hua, at this moment, everyone and all the demons still attributed this technique to Xiao Hua. After all, other than Xiao Hua, no one had stood out, and no one dared to stand out. He was different from the others. That hawk owl was even more frightened than the others. He had already discovered the difference in this lightning from the thin and tough thunderstorm. He was clear in his heart that he had set up a restriction around this stone wall, completely isolating this space from the outside world. Even if there was an expert controlling lightning here, it was absolutely impossible for him to attract the heavenly lightning from outside this space. And he himself, relying on the innate magical ability of his demon body, was able to control the heavenly lightning within this space. This was originally one of his trump cards to capture the light beast, but he didn't expect that when the battle had just begun, this magical ability that could restrain the light beast would actually be broken by someone else. Who was this someone else? There was no need to say more. Other than that Xiao Hua who had always kept a low profile, who else could it be? Hawk Owl's vicious and hateful gaze couldn't help but stare at Xiao Hua. A kind of indescribable feeling emerged from the bottom of his heart. He had a kind of intuition. Today's matter would be exposed because of Xiao Hua's appearance. However, before Hawk Owl could think more, the 2 layers of lightning had already collided. -11. Chapter 33-24. Hawk Owl was caught in an impending predicament, but the light beast was already in trouble. Just as he finished instructing the light infant beast, the 9 dragon steels that were flying around him started to spin rapidly. The black fog that had been released earlier was sucked into the steels as it spun. Furthermore, the pungent black gas in the surroundings also seeped into the steels along with the black fog. Roar, roar. 9 dragon roars sounded out in a row, causing the entire space to shake once again. The black fog that was as thick as liquid earlier was like a giant whale sucking in water as it rushed into the bodies of the 9 dragon steels that were gradually revealing their true appearances. The 9 dragon steels, whose faces were ferocious and their bodies varied in size, grew larger and larger under the influence of the black fog. They blocked out most of the light beast's light. Not only that, but in the gaps where the 9 dragon steels could not cover, the Immortal's Law chapter, under Ao Shuai's control, turned into dozens of fluttering pages. They were like butterflies, but also like words. They triggered a majestic noble chi, and together with the 9 dragon steels, they covered the light beast. The 9 Dragon Steels and the Immortal's Law chapter had revealed their final trump card. How could the Stag King's Imperial Jade Seal be slow? Shadows of the stag flew out from the Imperial Jade Seal and formed an origin formation beside the 9 Dragon Steels. They attacked the light beast with the 2 treasures. And in this herd of stag, Enhu's huge tiger-shaped inner core was also at the forefront. Everyone knew that if they could not defeat the light beast this time, they would not have another chance. With so many demons trying their best, how could the light beast not be in trouble? Unfortunately, the light beast was not as nervous as they thought. It even glanced at the lightning that was about to collide with each other, then shook its head, as if shaking off dirty water on its head. With this shake, the dragon horn on the top of the light beast's head shone again. But this time, the light was blood-red. This blood-red light turned into strange runes that flowed from the dragon horn to the rest of its body like water. This flow was extremely fast. When the 9 Dragon Tablets, the Celestial Law chapter, the Imperial Jade Seal, and the tiger-shaped Nidon completely surrounded the light beast, an indescribable force and a mysterious vortex gradually appeared around the light beast. Just as it was about to swallow the light beast, the runes had already flowed all over the light beast's body. The light beast proudly took a step forward. It was a simple step, but a blood-red shadow suddenly rushed out of the light beast's body. It was faster than the flashing light, and in the blink of an eye, it rushed past the 4 heavenly treasures. Pung pung. The 9 Suns Dragon Steel shook rapidly. The image of the 9 Suns Dragon Steel cracked inch by inch, revealing many flaws. The Immortal's Law was also like a banana in the wind. After shaking a few times, it was also gradually torn apart. The image of the stag controlled by the Imperial Jade Seal was even more unbearable. Each and every one of them was howling in grief in the air. The most pitiful one was the tiger-shaped inner core. After the blood image passed, it actually turned into an empty shell. It first wrinkled, then turned into dust with the wind. Roar. Enhu roared. His physical body withered not far away. Whoosh! Before Enhu's howl could fade away, a flash of light faster than a shooting star rushed out of the 3 heavenly treasures and attacked Enhu. Enhu was shocked. Before he could even think of dodging, the dragon head of the light beast appeared in the flash of light. It opened its bloody mouth and swallowed Enhu's head with a roar. At the same time, the hooves that were stepping on the Jade Rui auspicious cloud stretched out. It was as if it was digging into mud, and it kicked Enhu's chest. After a flash of blood, the beating heart of the tiger was brought out. The light beast's movements were so fast that all the demons were caught off guard. In particular, the light beast took advantage of the time when Enhu's inner core was destroyed to kill him. Then, it turned around and attacked the Deer King again. The Stag King was so frightened that he hurriedly retreated. The Imperial Jade Seal did not wait for the 9 Suns Dragon Steel and the Immortal's Law to kill the light beast. It immediately flew in front of it to protect it. Little did it know that the light beast was just making a feint. Its body turned in midair, and its entire dragon head twisted. Its eyes emitted a ferocious glare as it charged at Ao Shuai. Just as the light beast broke through the encirclement of several demons and even succeeded in killing Enhu, the battle between Xiaohua and Hawk Owl was once again in a stalemate. 2 waves of lightning crashed together like a tidal wave. Xiaohua's lightning was obviously no match for Hawk Owl's dark wind and thunder. Under the heavy flashes of lightning and thunder, his lightning was annihilated. Seeing that, Xiaohua was not discouraged. He knew very well that his lightning and thunder technique was created with the help of the Green Seal script. The Green Seal script was the most mysterious script between heaven and earth. It had the power to move mountains and drain seas. It was not something he could control with his current soul cultivation. Furthermore, the lightning and thunder technique was created out of thin air. When it came to power, it was much inferior to the Taoist's lightning manipulation technique, which relied on external objects. Of course, Xiaohua was also somewhat looking forward to it. He did not know how much stronger the lightning and thunder technique would be once he mastered all the Green Seal scripts. However, even though the lightning flash and thunder roll technique was somewhat weak, it was superior in that it was continuous, growing, and multiplying endlessly. Sparrow Hawk Xiao incessantly flapped its wings, incessantly spitting out lightning from its mouth. However, Xiaohua's lightning was like a thin stream, like an unyielding candle in the wind, born and extinguished, born and extinguished, born and extinguished, endlessly consuming Sparrow Hawk Zhao's wind and thunder. Seeing that it was actually being held back by Xiaohua, this little bug, hawk owl, was anxious and hateful. It flapped its wings, and after dancing with a large amount of wind and thunder, it actually broke free from the lightning and thunder. Its already injured claws were like sharp weapons as it grabbed at Xiaohua. Although the sharp claws had not yet reached its body, the sharp sound of the wind and the whistling sound of the wind breaking through the air let everyone know that under this claw, even an origin tool would be torn apart, right? However, looking at Xiaohua again, seeing the claws coming at him, he did not panic at all. Instead, he raised the wishful staff in his hand and very casually welcomed the attack. It was like a kind of playful play. Boom, with a loud sound, the wishful staff hit the claws. Under the huge force, Xiaohua's face instantly turned pale. His whole body could not control itself and was hit to the side. However, the strange thing was that the direction of the flying was really beyond everyone's expectations. It was not flying backwards, nor was it flying in any other direction. Instead, it had just landed on the left side of the Pegasus and somewhat intimately stretched out its front hooves to explore the Pegasus's light feathers. Tell this little guy, don't struggle. Xiaohua hurriedly ordered Xiaohe, and then released his spiritual sense to send the light baby beast into the storage bag. It was not beyond Xiaohua's expectations. The light baby beast struggled extremely and did not let his spiritual sense wrap around it. Even if Xiaohua wanted to protect the light baby beast, he could not. Forget it, Xiaohua tried a little more, but he knew that this was a dead end. Just as he was about to raise the wishful staff to block the flying hawk owl again, he suddenly frowned, and his eyes showed a ruthless color. At the same time, his figure rushed towards the hawk owl. The god-power centipede that had just curled up into a ball moved again, like a dark sword shooting towards the side of the light baby beast. Pung! Somewhere in the air, a wave of fluctuations passed by, and the image of a very embarrassed Confucian scholar appeared. On the top of his head, there was a faint fluctuation of starlight. Wasn't that the ever-changing 10,000 scarf that he had just bought? Shameless! Xiaohua coldly snorted. Seeing the Confucian scholar fly away in a hurry, he knew that the Confucian scholar had a guilty conscience. Seeing that he had revealed himself, he might not attack the light baby beast again. Holding the wishful staff in his hand, he still faced the incoming claws. At this time, the claws were sharper than before, and Xiaohua seemed to see the ruthless expression of Master Nine Firmaments who wanted to eat him alive. If it was before, Xiaohua might have pretended to panic, but now, Xiaohua's face was like water, and he did not have any pretentious thoughts. Just like before, the wishful staff in his hand was still whistling loudly, and it was very light as it hit the sharp claws of the hawk owl. But obviously, the hawk owl was not moved by Xiaohua's calmness. He thought that Xiaohua had some tricks up his sleeve, and his claws actually produced the sound of wind and thunder and crashed down. The hawk owl was wrong, and very wrong. This was the feeling when his left claw, which was not shattered, touched the wishful staff. The painful blow not only defeated the wind and thunder, but also shattered the left claw. The hawk owl really did not understand. A little human, under the wishful staff, was several times more powerful than the divine power centipede. The hawk owl's claws were completely shattered, and his huge body could not maintain balance. Flapping his wings, he fell towards the stone wall. Xiaohua temporarily repelled the hawk owl, but he believed that the hawk owl was far from this strength. He only relied on the lightning flash and thunder roll and the wishful staff to attack him. If the hawk owl attacked again, he was afraid that he would not be able to deal with it. So, he swung the wishful staff, lowered his body slightly, and let the divine power centipede stand in front of him, waiting for the hawk owl's attack. His mind was racing, thinking of a way to deal with it. As for the light beast, it rushed madly towards Ao Shuai. Ao Shuai's eyes met the eyes of the light beast that looked very similar to him, and there was a trace of fear in his eyes. He hurriedly opened his mouth, and a dragon breath came out of his abdomen, rushing towards the light beast. Although the light beast had the head of a dragon, its body was that of a Qilin. Seeing the dragon breath coming down, it hurriedly opened its mouth, and a pillar of white light rushed out, blocking the dragon breath. Then, the light beast's whole body turned again, and it rushed towards the Stag King again. The Stag King had just stabilized his body, so how could he dare to fight the light beast again? The Imperial Jade Seal shook again and turned into three, protecting his body tightly. Who knew that the light beast swayed in front of the Stag King again, without any intention to attack the Stag King. Its whole body turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the hole where Xiaohua and the others had just fallen into. The light beast wanted to escape. The light beast's actions were truly out of everyone's expectations. Even Xiaohua was greatly shocked. Because the light beast did not inform him in advance, the light beast cub with the Pegasus also did not have any reaction. Let's go. Even though he was a little surprised, Xiaohua still did not dare to be negligent. He urged Little Black, and the Pegasus spread out its light feathers and fell under him. The light beast cub thought it was playing again, and it chased after it on a cloud. The Pegasus' light feathers flashed, and it dragged Xiaohua a few feet away. -11.